That's my baby. I'm dying.
That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored! They did it!
Left, feet left.
What the hell was that? Oh, yeah!
What the fuck are you talking about?
It's Monday night, everyone. The Sports Hounds are live exclusively on a2dradio.com. We are streaming live on all platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Instagram. Download, subscribe us if you miss any of the content here on A2D Radio. Download, stream, podcast, form, speaker, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, iTunes. The takeover's real. A2D Radio is everywhere. Better, bigger, better things to come in 2021. Of course, Rob Brinkman, Brad Ryer's in the house. We have the esteemed Rob Povia joining us tonight, a hockey and baseball fantasy sports savant. We're going to pick his brain about the NFL playoffs. Doug Pederson, NHL preview. That's the meat and potatoes of the show. Hockey starts Wednesday, guys. Brad's all rangered up. We're all flyered up. I made futures bets. I made prop bets. I had a fantasy draft last night. But we're going to defer to the hockey experts, Brad and Pobes, on that. Already made a trade in my fantasy hockey league. I'm getting absolutely shredded for it. Apparently, it's the worst trade ever.
What did you do?
We'll see. We'll see. But, Brad, we got to start. And, of course, we got to do our business. Now, check out Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC, 3 convenient locations, Burlington and Cherry Hill. He's our doc. Make him yours, too. That's Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy. Also, check out our gutter guys at Ambuck Services. They are the gutter and deck experts of South Jersey. Give them a call at 856-879-5530. Tell them A2D Radio sent you. Get that friends and family discount. Now we're going to get into our poll. Our poll is obviously Eagles-related. Doug Pederson is out as the Philadelphia Eagles head coach. Our poll question each and every week brought to you by Philly Drinkers, LLC. Get all your A2D gear and merchandise at phillydrinkersllc.com. Click on the A2D Radio collection. Doug Pederson deserved to get fired. This is a loaded question. A lot of people, it's volatile. There's hatred being spewed at the ownership group, at Howie Roseman, at the people who picked the players, at the coaching staff. Everybody's fired up. But did Doug Pederson deserve to get fired? Probably not. I've been an advocate on this program saying that Doug Pederson, with the injuries and the COVID-infused season that we just had, he should have gotten another year, I think, to kind of right the ship. But, I mean, a lot's happened, a lot's transpired. But at the same time, I understand he won a Super Bowl, and I'm grateful for that. But I can't shed tears and be upset that Doug Pederson's not the Philadelphia Eagles head football coach. I just can't be. I really lost my cool with him in the Dallas game this year, a game I thought they should have won, a game I thought they had in hand, but Doug just went off script. Across the board, and you just had offense. You go away from Miles Sanders. You put Deshaun Jackson in for one play for a deep threat, then you pull him out. And the defense couldn't stop anybody. I really lost patience with Doug in the Dallas game, and just some of the decisions. He just strikes me as a head coach that just lacked critical thinking skills over the past 2 seasons. Everyone wants to point at this one season as being atrocious. I totally disagree. This has been a 2-year train wreck. 2019 and 2020 this year were atrocious coaching seasons for Doug Pederson. Now, 2019 gets overlooked because they rallied against the Little Sisters of the Poor in the last 4 games of the season and were able to make the playoffs. But 2019, make no mistakes about it, Doug Pederson was atrocious. And it got even worse this year. He was so stubborn and so stupid when it came to hiring or lack thereof of an offensive coordinator, a complete offensive coaching staff, what was completely irresponsible. Completely irresponsible. And the play of the quarterback and the regression of the quarterback directly correlates to that decision. I totally believe that. So if you want to be stubborn and you just want to promote within and be lazy with coaching hires, I can't shed tears over you. And then the whole thing with I'm going to be aggressive here and not aggressive here on 4th down. I'm going for 2 here, even though it makes no sense. I couldn't do it. I can't stick up for Doug Pederson and say I'm upset that he's fired. I'm not. And honestly, I'm excited. Look, Jeffrey Lurie spoke today at 4 o'clock. And a lot of what he said was complete bullshit. And the way, like, about Deuce, he's going to be a candidate. Like, okay, you got to say stuff like that. The Rooney Rule's in effect, and if you say something bad about Deuce being out, you're going to get crushed. I get it. It's political. And, you know, his inconsistencies with, Doug didn't deserve to be fired, but I just fired him anyway. I don't really understand all that. I don't know where he's going with that. But the one thing that I wholeheartedly agree with that Jeffrey Lurie said is that you need to have a top 5, top 10 offense in today's NFL to be able to win a Super Bowl. The days of having a top defense with just making a few plays a game in this league, those days are dead. It's not 1995. It's not even 2005. And he pretty much, I'm paraphrasing, I don't have the transcripts in front of me because I'm not a nerd, basically said that over the next 3 to 5 years, I don't see us recovering as becoming a 5 to top 10 offense in this league under Doug Pederson. I don't see how anybody can disagree with that. So did Doug Pederson deserve to get fired? The answer to the poll question is no. I thought he should have gotten 1 more year. But I'm also not upset about this move. I'm not crushing Jeffrey Lurie for letting him go. Because if it came down to Doug wanting personnel control, taken away from Howie and given it to Doug, if that was a sticking point, there's no way. Doug can't even put a game plan together. That makes sense. And we'll let him pick the players too, stretching him even thinner. And then what it seems like it came down to was Doug and Carson were never going to work together. Ever. And if it comes down to a head coach like Doug Pederson and a player like Carson Wentz that I know he can be, I think I keep saying it, and he keeps just playing worse and worse every time I say it, it seems. But I do believe there's a very, very good starting quarterback in Carson Wentz. So it seems like Jeffrey Lurie's plan is to put together a coaching staff along with Howie Roseman, unfortunately, along with Howie Roseman, to get the best out of Carson Wentz, which is in the Eagles' best interest. I've said it on here before, and become a top 5 to 10 offense in this league. Now, Brad, you're a Giants fan. You were very vocal about Doug Pederson's handling of Week 17 when the Washington football team played the Philadelphia Eagles, and Doug Pederson, they lost the game on purpose.
He tanked the game.
And he made it too obvious.
And I think that benching Jalen Hurts down 3 in Week 17, when you still had a chance to win the football game for Nate Sudfeld because he throws.
He lied about that.
I totally agree with you.
That was my problem. If you would have started him.
My point being, before you get going, Brad, is I think Doug kind of lost the locker room a little bit with that decision. And for a player's coach to lose the locker room, that doesn't work either. So, Brad, go ahead.
Listen, I think he should have been. I think he should be fired. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, okay, you tank in the NFL when they flex you to a Sunday night game in front of the whole country. Not only did you embarrass the NFL, you embarrassed your organization. Okay, I don't care what Eagle fans think, whether they're embarrassed or not. Okay, trust me, the NFL was embarrassed by what Doug Pederson did. Okay, if he wanted Nate Sudfeld to play, start him. Okay, just start him and make up some excuse that maybe Hurts is banged up or whatever. Okay, but the fact that you would even have him activated and not have Carson activated, if you were gonna honestly play it, fairly, you would have had Hurts play a half and you would have let Carson play a half and see who moved the offense better and give yourself a little bit of data for next year. Okay, maybe Wentz was a little banged up. Maybe the fact that he come in at a big spot would have woken him up. Who knows? But you know what? To put Nate Sudfeld in the game, wasn't played in 3 years against that Washington defense. Are you kidding me? I mean, you can't do that, okay? And you can say, oh, we wanted the 6th pick. Come on. The difference between the 9th pick and the 6th pick really isn't that big a deal. Okay, if you were drafting 2 or 1, yes. Okay, at 6, you know what? If you want to get a receiver, there's plenty of real good receivers. Okay, the best receiver this past year was drafted at 23. Okay, so I don't want to hear that crap. That's just a bunch of garbage. Okay, if that's where the Eagles want to go, if they want to, if you really think that strongly that the one wide receiver this year, Smith, is 100 times better than everybody else, blah 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 blah. He's going to be the first pick or the second pick of the draft. Okay, he won't last till the 6th. Okay, that's the bottom line. There's also, if you think he's the only good receiver, you're wrong. There's a lot of good receivers out there. You never know who's going to be really good and who's not going to be really good with these receivers in the league. That's the one thing we found out. So, I mean, look, Odell Beckham was picked 12. Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter all that much. When you're playing with the integrity of the NFL and you purposely lose a game, you're going to be looked at very, very poorly, okay? Free agents aren't going to come now because they're going to say, because the other players are mad, they're going to say, I don't know if I want to play here when they don't give a damn about their players. I mean, these guys all work their asses off during practice all week to play this game to try to win the game. And then you pull out the plug and you pull the quarterback? I mean, that's just, to me, that's a bunch of crap. And you know what? I'm not just saying it as a Giant fan. I'm just saying as an NFL fan. Okay, respect the game. Doug didn't respect the game. You know what? He disrespected the game. He disrespected the New York Giants. He disrespected the Redskins or whatever, the football team. He disrespected them. I mean, basically he disrespected the whole NFL because everybody was tuned into that game for 3 quarters. And I guarantee you, as soon as Sudfeld came in, I know I personally, I turned it off when Pederson didn't go for the field goal to tie it up. Because when he did that, I said, nobody could be that stupid. Now, I know you had said to me, Rob, well, that's Doug. He's crazy.
He's not smart. He's not smart at that stuff.
I say that was a bunch of crap. He especially the play he called against a speedy defense like Washington, and you're having him roll out. Are you kidding me? Come on. I mean, he didn't even try. You know what?
This is where you come across as being a bitch for being a Giants fan. Like that's what Doug does.
No, Doug threw the game, and you know what? As far as
I don't disagree with that, but not because of what you're saying. The only thing that any logical New York fan has to gripe about in that game is Jalen Hurts getting benched for Nate Sudfeld because that was atrocious.
You are
atrocious.
You are so raw. Listen, if somebody did that to the Eagles, you guys would be crying a river. Okay, you'd be screaming and going on and on and on.
Me, no, but other people probably would have.
Because that's what the Philadelphia fan base does. They cry me a river about stuff like that. Let's be honest.
Okay? You just cry for 10 fucking minutes about the Giants. Like, that's what Doug does. He's an idiot. This is why he doesn't have a job. He's been doing that stuff all year.
Listen. At 6-10, nobody deserves to make the playoffs. To be honest with you, 7-9, nobody deserves to make the playoffs. They had their rightful exit. They're gone. It's not the point, Rob. It's not the point. You went and the NFL took that game and they put it in at 8:00 on Sunday night as their nationally televised game.
Well, that's another issue where the NFL just wants to grab the market. That's not if any NFC East game should have been in that spot, it should have been the Giants and the Cowboys and hope that the Eagles pulled an upset. You could have put the Bears and the Packers in that spot. Aaron Rodgers in that spot.
They should have put them in there.
Now you could have put the Rams. You could have put the Rams and the Cardinals in that spot.
The Packers already had first place clinched. Okay.
No, they didn't.
Well, had they played at 8:00, I think it already would have been clinched. It would have been over at that point because Seattle lost. So had they played at 8:00, maybe Aaron Rodgers wouldn't have played. But I have a feeling against the
Seattle didn't lose. They just didn't cover.
Wait a minute.
They played the Niners.
They played the Niners. That's right. They won. So they would have needed the game. But you know what? Aaron Rodgers was going to play against the Bears no matter what. Because you know what? The Packers were not going to let the Bears. We're not going to let the Bears win.
You mean Mr. MVP, who's trying to throw for 50? He's trying to lock up that MVP. Aaron Rodgers was playing that last game no matter what.
Exactly.
Up those stats.
Yeah, but not only that, but the Packers aren't ever going to lose a game on purpose. None of these teams do that. But I mean, just to give you an example, okay, Pittsburgh rested their players, but you know what? Playoff teams are allowed to do that. When you're a crappy team and you're playing for pride, the regular season is not a time to be experimenting. Okay, that's why you have mini camp. That's why you have practices. Okay, that's why they have a preseason. That's when you do that. You play to win the game, as Herman Edwards says. Okay, you don't go out there and you start pulling your quarterback or making embarrassingly stupid decisions. I mean, come on. Could you imagine if the Giants were playing and Joe Judge went and didn't tie a game and tried to go for it?
So basically the crux of your argument is Doug Pederson deserved to get fired because of that and that alone.
No, that's just one reason. Okay. The other
reasons.
The other reasons is because he is an incompetent play caller. He doesn't use his team properly. He screwed up Carson Wentz to a point where Carson Wentz didn't know whether he should be running or standing in the pocket. You know what he needed to do? He needed to just tell Carson Wentz, like the Ravens told Lamar Jackson, go be yourself. If you want to go run around the pocket, if you want to go running around back there looking for receivers and pulling stuff out of your butt, a la Brett Favre, kind of like that, then go ahead and do that. Okay. Instead, he made him sit in the pocket and he got killed. Okay. And he's been getting killed every year. Okay. And because he's been a sitting duck, he's got so many injuries that he's shot. And by the way, Chrome, you're absolutely wrong. Okay. Just because, that's
bullshit, Brad. If we're talking imperative, then if you're playing a team with playoff incompletion, you play your starters whether you're clinched or not.
They always.
So he said the Eagles should have played their starters.
I think he's saying that it's okay for playoff teams to rest their players. No, if you make the playoffs, you've earned the right to rest your players. Okay, so that they don't get hurt. Then you've earned the right to do that.
I don't care if you wanted to get a look at Sudfeld, which was atrocious, and I don't want to keep going back to week 17 because Doug Pederson's gone, and I want to know if he deserved to get fired.
Well, I think it wasn't just that, Rob. 4-11.
I understand. You explained yourself.
I think the players quit on him. I think in the Cowboy game, especially, they quit on him. As soon as they got behind, they quit.
And I don't think Doug benching Hurts in that spot for Sudfeld helped them gain any points with his players. Rob Povia, representing the NFC East as well, Dallas Cowboys fan. How do you see this?
It had to be done. I mean, he lost the locker room, and you could say it for whatever reasons. I mean, you wanted to lose week 17. Why don't you put Jalen Hurts on the injury report and go with Nate Sudfeld from Jump Street? Just kind of like a la what the Jaguars did with James Robinson, in terms of tanking for number one. I think that would have been a way to handle that. But looking beyond that, Doug once had a great play calling ability, and it just withered away. Now, maybe that was from the gimmick plays because he is exceptional in terms, Philly special. Going to be legendary, known for that in this town. But you need more than that. And I think that's where he fell short. And you guys touched upon it, too, in terms of rearing a young quarterback. I would have suspected that would have been a strong suit for him. But how could you say it was a strong suit when, as you said, Wentz was totally screwed up and so on and so forth? So, I don't know. I personally, I would have cleaned house, fired Doug, fired Howie, and really start this team, from scratch from the front office on. But for some other, whatever reason, whatever dirt Howie has on Murray, he keeps his job. Doug doesn't.
But clearly, maybe I know I'm reading between the lines and speculating, but it seemed like there was a big time power struggles. It seemed like the gauntlets were laid down, probably by Carson first,
right?
By saying that I'm never going to be good for this guy. Me and this guy, we don't get along. It's never going to work. And I think there was probably a gauntlet laid down to Doug Pederson by Jeffrey Lurie saying, look, you want me to cook the meal? I want to buy the ingredients too, which is an indictment on Howie. But even though I hate Howie and want Howie to be fired, I don't want to give that responsibility to Doug Pederson. That's outlandish. That'd be ridiculous. So he's going to have no offensive coordinator and pick the players in the draft, orchestrate all that scouting and all that goes into the draft. Now, one thing that Jeffrey Lurie touched upon in his press conference that was also eye-opening to you, that really doesn't have anything to do with Doug. It just goes to how they run their draft rooms. They have no contingency plans. They're like, oh well, we're in the draft room, and then our 3 guys get taken the 3 picks before us. We kind of don't know what to do. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but that's what I heard in my head. Okay.
If you got too many chefs in the kitchen, that could be a result of it. That there's too many voices and there's a power struggle there, and that makes a lot of sense because in a power struggle, you got to go like Team Howie or Team, you know what I mean? You can't have it both ways. So maybe that's why Howie keeps his job, but it has resulted in poor contingency plans, as you say.
And it wouldn't surprise me if news comes out later that Howie Roseman never going to be fired by this team. Howie Roseman or Jeffrey Lurie went against Howie Roseman in the Chip Kelly saga, the Chip Kelly struggle. He picked his head coach. He gave his head coach full control. It was a total disaster. Only to the point where he had to go back to Howie Roseman, say he was sorry, please fix this, and then they won a Super Bowl. Howie's going nowhere. Whether he picks the players this upcoming draft or not, wouldn't surprise me in the next coming days that reports come out that, maybe Howie's going to take a little bit of a back seat when it comes to this stuff, focus on contracts and trades and whatnot. But, boy, I mean, Jeffrey Lurie, he really got boxed in here because it was a disaster of a season. You have a coach and a quarterback who can't get along. It seems like you have a coach and a general manager in Howie Roseman that can't get along, and Jeffrey Lurie's at the top wondering what to do. He fired Doug. Doug's not a good enough coach, folks, for me to sit here and be outraged and have one of my Brinkman freakouts about how the Eagles are stupid and this was totally bad. I don't know. I'm excited to what the future brings for this team. And that brings me to put a bow on this. Do you guys – I know Brian Dabble, offense coordinator of the Buffalo Bills. He's a hot name. Eric Bieniemy is a hot name, which I think they might – I don't know how many interviews Eric Bieniemy officially went on during the Chiefs' bye week. I can't recall of any, but – man, if you were going to fire Doug, it would have been nice to do it a week ago so you could talk to Bieniemy this week and kind of get your foot in the door with the guy. But, I mean, be that as it may, there's a lot of head coaching jobs. Do you guys think Doug Pederson's going to get a job this year?
I don't think so. I don't think so for one reason. I mean, I know the Jets have been interested. I mean, there was even some jokes posted online that they trade a draft pick for him. And there is that connection with Joe Douglas, and they had a strong working relationship, resulted in a Super Bowl in 2017. But me personally, I wouldn't think that's a good fit for the point that I made before. If this guy's not a good head coach to rear a young quarterback, why would you want to pair him with either Sam Darnold, who's still pretty young, or Justin Fields, that is probably going to get selected at 2? Doesn't make sense.
Brad, do you think he coaches?
I would agree with you there. I think that at this point, first of all, I don't think the Jets are going to pick Fields. That's number one. I think the Jets.
I think they're going to.
I think they're going to go for offensive line. From what I've heard, with the New York feeds and everything, is that they haven't given up on Bradford yet. Bradford. What am I saying? Bradford. On Darnold yet at all. They still have faith in him. They feel like they've given him no offensive line, no receivers, and they want to get him some weapons to at least give him a chance. I mean, if you watched any Jet games at all this year, basically the other team was in their offensive backfield before he was going back to pass, which is just goes to show how ridiculous it was for poor Darnold. I mean, he almost got killed. I mean, he's been getting hurt every year, and the reason he keeps getting hurt every year is because their offensive line is terrible. I mean, They drafted Becton. He's not bad. He's a good start, but they need to draft another offensive lineman. I think the Jets are going to trade down, get themselves an extra first-round pick so that they have 3 this year. That way they can go ahead and get a couple of offensive linemen and maybe a pass receiver, or another running back, so that they can get their offense put together. So I don't think they're all that bad.
So the only place I really see Doug as a good fit is Houston. Because he's got to do is not screw up Deshaun Watson, which Deshaun Watson he's a top 5 quarterback. He's far better than Carson Wentz. He's far better than any of the other. Because if you're Los Angeles, you just screwed up Carson Wentz. I don't want you anywhere near Justin Herbert. You just set an NFL record for touchdown passes for a rookie. Same thing with the Jets, young quarterback.
That's why I think Bieniemy is going to end up going to the Chargers. I mean, if you're Bieniemy and the Charger job is offered, I'm saying, you know what? With the talent on that team should have made the playoffs this year. Although, maybe they weren't going to be an 11-win team even with a really good coach. But you know what? They've got the quarterback. They've got some weapons. They got a good defense. They got a lot of good players on their defense. I think that's where he goes. I think any coach, if that's any coach that has the first choice of going to Los Angeles, is going to go there. Why wouldn't
maybe Detroit could be a fit for Doug right away. Stafford there. Make one
Detroit is a weird team. I mean,
they're not horrendous. No, I don't think they're horrendous. I really don't.
They're not horrendous, but they never seem to know how to win.
Well, I mean, they really messed up getting rid of Jim Caldwell like they did. And they made a bad hire in Matt Patricia. So, they were like 9-7, 10-6 a couple of seasons there with Caldwell. In the final flex game 256 against Green Bay for the division, and unfortunately, Aaron Rodgers just did him dirty, like he does that entire division.
Well, he does that to everybody, though. I mean, look, it's I don't know. You know what? It's tough to go into that division right now. I'm thinking maybe Minnesota would try to get Watson. Boy, if they ever got him, look out.
It's going to be a crazy offseason with that one.
If he gets traded, whoever gets him is going to be an immediate favorite to win their division, unless it's somebody in the Central, because obviously you got to deal with Rodgers, or if it's in Kansas City's division. But even then, I mean,
do you have any names? Do you have any names at the Eagles that you guys like that the Eagles should look at before we get to some comments and we get into some hockey talk? Because hockey starts Wednesday.
Jason Garrett. You guys deserve it.
Jason Garrett.
I got one that y'all ain't gonna like, but I think it might make sense, especially if you want to reshift your focus on the defense, and maybe within the draft do that as well. Draft yourself a linebacker with your pick, with your number 6 overall pick. But Marvin Lewis, guys,
would be a good coach,
right?
Yeah, he is a good
coach. I can't deny the fact
he's a defensive coordinator, to be quite honest with you. I mean, but you could have him be coach, but if I was hiring a head coach, I might want somebody a little younger and then have him as a defensive coordinator. I think he's a brilliant defensive mind.
But I mean, this defense, and I'm with you, Poe. I think that a defensive coach with a veteran offensive staff that just focus. You need the offensive coaching staff might as well just be labeled as Carson's personal coaching staff. Just to have a group of offensive coaches headed by the offensive coordinator. Just, Carson, you good? You know what we're doing? What do you think we should do? Do you like throwing to this guy? You like throwing to that guy? Should we get some new guys? Like, you need to get Carson back on track. That's in the best interest of this organization. 2 guys that I like are Todd Bowles. I think he's going to be a successful head coach in this league. I know he was a head coach before, but he was too young. He wasn't ready. He was in New York. It was a disaster. I think he'll get what's that?
I don't like him at all. I saw him with the Jets. He was not very good with the Jets.
But he's an outstanding defensive mind, and I think he is going to be a good head coach in this league if given another opportunity. My other guy is Robert Saleh out in San Francisco. Maybe you get him to be your head coach. Get D'Amico Ryans, the linebackers coach out there that's turned 2 I think there's a third and a fourth round pick, middle linebackers there, into all pros, like the excellent football players. I think that's a direction you should look. And then, I don't know, obviously Bieniemy is going to be the hot name. Dabble's going to be a hot name. I'd be totally disgusted if they went with a Mike Kafka or something like that.
What about Urban Meyer?
Sounds like there's a bow just wrapped on that to Jacksonville, and he's going to work with Lawrence or whatever quarterback he sees fit to pick at the first pick.
You don't want to go to Jacksonville, though? I mean, I hear you with the quarterback thing, but I mean,
well, he's going to get you go to Jacksonville because he's going to get Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, but if you're Urban Meyer, do you really want to go to Jacksonville?
Why would anybody want to come? I mean, Philadelphia is not really that attractive of a place either, Brad.
Yeah, but here, I mean, Jacksonville, like, there's no fans there. Nobody really cares. Even when they were good, the fans weren't coming out. I mean, why would he want to go to a decrepit franchise like that? Man, you would think he'd want to go to a proud franchise that's been around a while. You know, the Chargers would be an example. I mean, the Lions. I could think of a lot of other teams. I would think the Chargers would be a good spot for him too, or the Texans.
Just saying, the only team I've heard him linked to is the Jaguars, and it's probably because nobody wants to coach the Jaguars for that reason. And Urban Meyer's probably bored and wants to dip back in, and he sees Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence, and he's intrigued. I don't know how intrigued Urban Meyer would be to coach Carson Wentz.
Right. I mean, Jacksonville off the field, I absolutely agree with Brad. On the field, I disagree. It's attractive because of the talent that's on that team. I mentioned James Robinson before, DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, who was drafted 42nd, I think, overall. Talk about later round wide receivers, a la Justin Jefferson, that panned out better. That, I think, has made it attractive for a head coach in terms of that team is very moldable and can be put together rather quickly. Now, in terms of fan support, Jacksonville, not really the greatest area. I could see that. But on the field, I would want a head coach there.
Well, let me ask you a question. Suppose the Cowboys fire McCarthy.
Oh, heartbeat.
I mean, you don't know that he's going to stay right now. That's not a lock.
That would have happened already, don't you think?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that. You don't. I mean, listen. The playoffs. They don't necessarily. They usually don't. They usually wait till after the playoffs when it comes to taking guys. You know, that's kind of hasn't that always been kind of the thing?
Excuse me. I think so, but in terms of this year, this was a very weird year where I don't think you can make too many judgments based on purely this year in the COVID era. I mean, we saw the Eagles just do it. I would think that teams should be a little bit more loyalist, but I think that started a little ways back before 2020. Based on 2020, I don't know. I think the Cowboys are definitely got a leash for at least 2, if not 3 seasons for McCarthy before he could potentially get a max. But too many teams just getting up and being like, you know, it's what have you done for me lately? Like Eddie Murphy said, what have you done for me lately? You know what I mean? It's the name of the game.
Here's my problem with the Cowboys. Okay, and Rob, maybe you could elaborate since you're a Cowboy fan. Okay, did you watch the last game, the Giant Cowboy game?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last series when the Giants got the ball. Okay, when the Cowboys weren't able to score and the Giants got the ball and had to try to kill the clock. Okay, were you totally confident that the Cowboys were going to stop them on 3 running plays and not let them get a first down and they get the ball back?
Right, but this is why you
confidence.
This is why they hired Dan Quinn and they're revamping their defensive coaching staff.
Because I thought for sure the Cowboys were going to stop them and they get the ball back. And the fact that their defense just got basically run over by Goldman, to me, and I mean, we're talking about the Giants here, okay? Not exactly the greatest offensive line in the history of the game.
They got better this year, though. I'll give them credit.
They had to get better. I mean, they did, and they were a little bit better. But let's be honest, okay? You can't. The Giants had the worst offense in the NFL, and they got a first down against the Cowboys. I got to blame McCarthy for that. I mean, come on.
Mike Nolan a little bit more. And again, I was surprised that they fired him. They just hired him. He had no training camp. That puts a new coaching staff behind the 8 ball. But throwing away the excuses, there's too much talent in the Cowboys linebacking core to be the worst rushing or run D in the NFL. No excuse for it. So to answer your question, I had zero confidence. I was like, the Giants are going to run out the clock here because we can't stop, a wet paper bag at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that was my point. I mean, the fact that they had sunken to that level, to me, it is a coaching thing because I don't think the talent was that bad. I mean, their defense was historically bad this year. And probably in their franchise history, I doubt that they've ever given up that many points in a season.
I would chill on like the Cowboys. They obviously needed something. Someone needed to be held accountable for what happened there this year with that defense. And Mike Nolan goes, Dan Quinn gets hired, but I'm convinced to this day, Povs, that if Andy Dalton doesn't get completely decapitated in that Washington game earlier in the year and didn't have to go at it with DiNucci and Garrett Gilbert in consecutive weeks against the Eagles and the Steelers, I think the Cowboys would have played last weekend. So
I would agree with you more.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Let's get to some comments. Michael Black's in the house. Agreed, coach. He lost the team. Greg Milakovic, I think he's throwing a kegger next weekend to watch the divisional playoffs and celebrate Doug Pederson's firing. He's the only guy that was more critical of Doug than me, and I let him have it a bunch of times here on this.
Yes,
so congratulations, Greg. You got what you wanted. He agrees to the poll. Howie should have been gone as well, but Doug's been bad, and this is warranted. Yeah, and I said at the top of the show, I think it's been a 2-year train wreck for Doug Pederson. J-Rad Michael, let's go Flyers. Hart the real deal. Bye, Doug. But for real, what was the Jeff Presser, Howie, Jesus, SMH, Doug the scapegoat years ago, but not without Howie? Scrub move. Look, I'm kind of just focusing on the head coach right now because, I mean, I've blasted Howie a bunch of times for a bunch of years and a bunch of months and a bunch of shows, and I don't think he should have anything to do with player personnel, drafting players.
He's going to be picking the next coach. Do you want him picking the next coach?
Well, Jeffrey Lurie said at his press conference today that he is the head of the search committee.
Oh, my God.
It stops with him. But he hired Doug. He hired Chip. Like, he's been involved.
Jeffrey Lurie is going to be the one that hires the coach.
He's been involved in every he let Andy go. He was instrumental in bringing Chip in. He was instrumental in letting Chip go after he'd seen enough, and he was instrumental in bringing Doug Pederson. So Jeffrey Lurie is going to be hands-on in this coaching search. 1,000%.
When you have a coach, the problem is when you have an owner picking the general manager, you have the Dallas Cowboys all over again.
Why shouldn't Jeffrey Lurie pick the coach? Who should pick the coach?
The general manager. That's how most normal teams do it. They have the general man, the owner. You get that. What do you think? Daniel Snyder kept doing that. Okay, and he got lucky this time because he had Ron Rivera. But you know what? Owners should let the football guys make the football decision.
Howie's not a football guy.
Huh?
Well, Jeffrey Lurie knows Howie's not a football guy.
Well, then you got to get yourself. Then he needs to go too. You need to fire.
I mean, I've been telling you that for 2.5 fucking years, Brad. I mean, we're talking about Doug now, though. I can't get into the Howie rabbit hole tonight. I can't because I'm just going to get frustrated. I'm trying to celebrate the start of the NHL season, trying to celebrate the NFL playoffs. Unfortunately, this bombshell got dropped on us at 2:30 in the afternoon, and we owe it to the people to give our opinions on it. And that's why we're leading with it. And not hockey. You can't pay Wentz that much money and bench him for one season with little wide receivers and shady offensive line. He deserves better, in my opinion. The NFC East panel. Are we still on week 17? We talked about that. John Addick, if you're 12-4 and locked into the playoffs and sat everyone, nobody bitches. We are a lock for not making the playoffs. Who cares? 6 wins wasn't enough for the New York Giants to make it, period. Didn't impact anyone else. Should have never been a primetime game, period. I agree with a lot of that, but you can't bench Hurts there. That's inappropriate. It's inappropriate and embarrassing. Matt Spillane, Doug will have a job tomorrow. LOL. This is too funny. Stop crying. We should have been up a TD, but our candy arm quarterback couldn't throw it 10 yards for the go-ahead TD. Wide receiver, we lost nothing by putting Suggs in. Well, I think you did. I think you lost the game. You eliminated any chance you had at winning the game because Nate Sudfeld can't play. He's been in Philadelphia for 4 years. You know what you have in Suggs. So stop with this bullshit that you're trying to look at Suggs. You know what you have in Suggs. Stop it.
He hasn't played since 2018. So stop. That's just ridiculous.
Ted, Doug got scapegoated. If anyone had an interview with Laurie to fix the team, it's the GM. I can't really say that Doug got scapegoated. I can't. Now, if he did a good job and it was blatantly evident that it was all Doug's fault that the team was 11-4-1 this year, then I can't get on that scapegoat bandwagon because he played a huge part in this team being 4-11-1.
Well, Rob, his bizarre play calling, okay, not sticking with the running game when the running game was working, okay, the weirdness with the 2-point conversions all the time. I mean, not having a clue when you should use it, when you should do it, and when you should not do it. And by the way, if you remember Frank Reich, boy, did he screw up the 2-point conversion scenario down in Buffalo this past weekend. That first one. Why would you go for a 2-point conversion when it's 24-16? I think the first thing I did, I had to fire something out on Facebook about that. Is Doug Pederson coaching this team? I mean, Doug had no clue how to use the 2-point conversion. He would not stick with the running game when the running game was working. If something's working, you keep doing it until it stops working. Okay? Did you watch the New Orleans Saints yesterday? Okay? First half, they couldn't do anything offensively. Second half, at halftime, they made an adjustment. They figured out to send somebody up the middle, okay, to do the down and ins. Okay, and they were doing it all the whole second half. They were running the same play because Chicago couldn't stop it. Yeah, Miles Sanders, who was averaging 6 yards a carry or something like that. Run the ball more. Run the ball 20 times. Don't put it in Carson's hands when he's struggling. Okay, if the team comes up and they have to put 8 guys in the box, and then you got one-on-one, you're not going to get sacked as much. Okay, you're going to have one-on-ones to deal with. I mean, it just. He was not a very good coach, and of course I'm mad at him about the way he handled the Giant game. Of course I am, but as a coach, I just don't think he was very good. He was good when he had all those other really good coaches around him in 2017, and they had the best offensive line in the league and the best defensive line in the league, and that's what wins games. Their offensive line now stinks, and their defensive line is it's old now. It's just not as good as it used to be. It's old and banged up, just like the offensive line is old and banged up.
Bombed out and depleted.
Huh?
I said bombed out and depleted. Little Chappelle show.
Yeah, right? I mean, they're just the problem is the Eagles roster has kind of aged out, and Howie has not drafted enough good young talent to keep the Eagles highly competitive anymore. I mean, they have a few guys, who are very, very football savvy on that team, like guys like Kelsey and some of these other guys who are just really good football players that kept them competitive for the most part. But it just got to a point where they couldn't do it anymore. And listen, had Howie drafted better, then they wouldn't have had all these problems. But you know what? When a good drafter has depth, if somebody goes down, even if you have a lot of injuries, I mean, the Packers always seem to have a lot of injuries, and it doesn't seem to bother them. I mean, obviously they couldn't deal with if Aaron Rodgers got hurt, but I mean, they get injuries. All these teams get injuries. This was a very tough year for a lot of teams.
Yeah, I'm not on the excuse. Everyone wants to. First off, no, I don't want Deuce Staley as the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. He gets passed over year after year, but by not only the Philadelphia Eagles, but every team in the league. Stu Staley was going to be a head coach. He'd be a head coach elsewhere. But, I mean, he'll get a look. He'll get a look for Rooney Rule reasons. And who do I want to replace? I don't know. I really like the Eagles defense is atrocious. It's just the secondary is so bad. It's just such a vanilla game plan. Same thing. Offenses knew what you're going to do under Jim Schwartz. So getting a dynamic defensive mind like Saleh or Bowles or someone of that ilk intrigues me a lot. And getting someone, I know someone Bob Brinkman brought up in the comments, like, don't be surprised if DiFilippo comes back to hold Carson's hand. I'd be totally for that.
Very smart. That would be a very smart move. If they did.
Carson was MVP when he was the quarterback coach, and he hasn't really lived up to expectations.
Are you going to let your new coach pick his own coaches, or are you going to straddle with you have to have this coach and this coach and this coach and this coach? Because usually these coaches want their own guys.
No, I think the coach should absolutely pick his own staff.
So, I mean,
absolutely.
If somebody wants to, if whoever they hire is going to want to bring DiFilippo in, I'm sure Lurie could talk them into it without losing a chance to get a good coach. I mean, there are coaches out there that I'm sure would do okay with the Eagles. I'm sure there are.
And like people are like, all these people that think no one's going to want to come here to be a head coach because of Lurie and Howie, like, get a clue. Like, guys are going to want that head coaching job. Guys want that head coaching money. The Eagles are going to not have a problem finding a head coach. Whether the guy, their number one choice, picks there, because there's 7 openings. There's 7 openings now, folks, I think. I think it's 7. A lot of openings. More than usual.
And there might be more. There might be more as the playoff season goes on.
Maybe, because it doesn't looks like Pete Carroll is going back to Seattle. He coached on a lame duck contract this year. They haven't extended him yet.
The problem with Pete Carroll is Pete's like 70 years old, isn't he?
Right, he's 76 years old, and there's rumors that he wants to be the head coach and the player personnel person.
Yeah, I mean Pete's old already. I mean it might be time. I mean the Giants let Coughlin go because for the most part it wasn't necessarily his coaching, but they just felt that he was getting old and it was time to get a younger guy in there. I think that might be the case with Pete Carroll too. But I mean if Seattle had a coaching opportunity, that would be a place where somebody would be thrilled to go there. I mean, why wouldn't they?
Do you know what I hope? I hope Howie Roseman and his scouting department is sitting down and taking a good hard look at the national championship right now. It's Alabama, it's Ohio State, it's Big Ten, SEC. There are just absolutely I mean, the game's first quarter's half over. I've already seen plays where, who's that guy? Maybe we should get that guy. Watch this game. I have the under in this game. I think Bama wins, but
yeah, I would agree with you. I don't like Ohio State's defense.
No, they looked plenty good against Clemson.
Well, they did give up 28, but I mean, I guess that's pretty good because Clemson.
Yeah, but everyone's you lace up your cleats, you get 30 points in college football.
This is true. You don't have any great defenses in
Let's
college.
move on to hockey. Hockey is back on Wednesday night. Flyers have a strong team. The Rangers have a strong team. The betting, we'll just take it from the top down on. We're going to talk about the division alignments. We'll talk about some fantasy. We'll talk about playoff predictions. We're going to talk Stanley Cup predictions. We got a full NHL preview coming at you for about the next hour. Then we're going to get into some NFL divisional round stuff because I'm very confident, fellas, that I have the divisional round all figured out. I already know how it's going to play out. I already know who's going to win. I'm very confident. But the betting favorite, Rob Povia, in Las Vegas to win the Stanley Cup playoffs are the Colorado Avalanche. You agree? Do you disagree with that? Because that was going to be the poll question before the Eagles went rogue and fired Doug Pederson. Are the Colorado Avalanche going to win the Stanley Cup? They're the favorites. They have a very good team. They almost won last year. What do you think about the Avalanche this year, Poe?
I absolutely loved them. I loved them last season before they got beaten up during the playoffs and had it at one point 8 players on the bench not participating, and yet they still go to 7 games against the Dallas Stars. I think they're a tremendous team from top to bottom, have 3 good, strong scoring lines, a good energy line, good defense, young defense. Ryan Graves is one of my more favorite defensemen in the league.
You had to bring him up, didn't you?
What's that?
You had to bring up Ryan Graves, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. You should be a Ranger, right? Absolutely.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but who knew?
The only kink in their armor potentially is goaltending, but it's just because they don't move the needle for you. They don't make you go from 6 to midnight, but they get the job done in Francois and Grubauer. So I like them. If any team's going to challenge them coming out of the West, it'll be the Las Vegas Golden Knights, who picked up Alex Pietrangelo, who was the best defenseman on the market this past. So they got stronger. I think they could give them a run for the money, but smart money bets on Colorado Avalanche to represent the Western Conference. What do you say, Brad?
Oh, in the Western Conference, absolutely. I mean, they're right now. I mean, they're the team to beat. They score more than everybody else. They're one of those teams. I mean, you have to worry all the time. They got so much depth and so many guys, so many snipers. They're a very tough team to defend. Yeah, and I wouldn't worry too much about their goaltending. I've always liked Grubauer. Always liked, especially when he was with Washington. I thought half the time he was playing better than our boy Braden Holtby for most of the time. To be honest with you, I mean, he was tremendous when he was with Washington. He really was. I mean, Washington didn't want to let him go. I mean, that was kind of like they really had no choice. They couldn't pay him. They couldn't pay him and Holtby at the time. So I mean, that was kind of their choice. They should be the favorites in the West. I still think Tampa Bay, even though they're not going to have their top player playing during the regular season. What's his name? Kucherov. Kucherov. He's out for the entire regular season. They're going to have Stamkos. Okay, so they didn't have Stamkos last year, but they're going to have him this year. So I mean, is it really that big of a difference? Plus, they're playing in a shit division. They're going to get to the playoffs if they're healthy. They still have the best goaltender in the league. They'll figure it out defensively because they always do. They'll find a defenseman that'll help them when the trade deadline comes. They're still the team to beat. As Rob will tell you, every year I've been picking them for how many years now, Rob?
A lot.
Every year since they beat the Rangers, I've been picking them to win the Stanley Cup. They finally won it last year. I just think now that they're over the hump and they won, they're going to be very tough to beat this year.
Yeah, I think Valentine's Day will be our 6-year anniversary, maybe 5-year anniversary of being on the air together, and I think you've picked the Tampa Bay Lightning to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I still like them. I think right now they are still heads and shoulders above the rest of the teams in the Eastern whatever you want to call it. You got the
division,
and then you got our division. Okay, but out of those two divisions, they're head and shoulders the best.
What do you guys think about this format? It's a 56-game season. You're only playing games in your division, which
that's gonna kill the Rangers.
Yeah,
it's going to kill everybody. It's going to kill everybody in the East. You got the East and the Central, which I suppose are going to make up the Eastern Conference, and you have the West and the North. The North being all teams,
all the Canada teams.
It's all the Canada teams, and it's by far the worst division. The West isn't much better. Like
the West might actually be worse because you got the 3 California teams who all blow. Okay.
They do.
I mean, to put it quite bluntly, I mean, let's be honest, okay? If those 3 teams were in any other division, they would be. I mean, okay, maybe the Red Wings would be the worst team in the one division, but Ottawa is going to be substantially better also this year. Those 3 teams would finish dead last in any division.
So the top 4 teams in each division are going to make the playoffs. And Rob, what's your take on the division realignment? I know it's supposedly going to be for one season.
It's what you had to do, especially to try to eliminate traveling, playing like all back-to-backs, all within it. I think there's a random occasion where I think the Flyers play the Rangers and then they play the Islanders, but you're not traveling that far. So it's sort of a necessary evil within this. But I think it was a good solution to the problem. And in terms of those East teams here, 6 out of the 8 of them were already in a competitive metro, and you take out Carolina and Columbus, and you put in Boston, who, in my opinion, other people are high on Boston. I think they're going to be on a decline this year. And Buffalo, who knows what the hell you're going to get out of Buffalo?
I agree with you about Boston. I think Boston's kind of peaked. Rask is getting old. Okay, let's be honest. Okay, he has not been as good. Chara's not going to be there anymore. I mean, I don't think the Bruins are going to be as good as they've been the last few years. They're still going to be a good team. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they're going to be better than my team for sure. I mean, they're still an elite team, but they are not in the same league right now as a team like Tampa Bay. No way, not anymore.
You lose Torrey Krug, that's going to be that loss is going to be felt.
Yeah.
You do have Charlie McAvoy, I think, steps up and fills that role, but
but it's less depth.
Yeah, it is less depth tremendously.
You're not. I mean, now Charlie McAvoy instead of being on the second pairing, now he's on the first pairing, and everybody has to move up a notch. I mean, they're not going to be as good. And again, I think Rask has just about had it.
Who's the best team in the East?
Who's
the best team in the East?
I think the Flyers are going to win the division. To be honest with you, I hate to say it because it kills me to have to admit to that. But I think right now, they're young. They got their they kind of got their ears wet last year in the playoffs. They learned that just because they had a great regular season and when they played in some games that were important but not playoff important, that they don't mean as much as they did in the playoffs. I don't think the Flyers mentally were ready to play the New York Islanders. I just don't think so. I mean, the way they played against the Islanders, they just looked like they weren't prepared to play a dirty game. I think after going through that, I think that they will be prepared to play a dirty game. Alain Vigneault has got to change his style a little bit because he can't be headmanning the puck all the time. Okay, and he's going to have to do something that he didn't do with the Rangers, and that's not be so stubborn. Because when he was with the Rangers, his problem and his downfall was when they didn't have enough speed anymore, he continued to always want to headman the puck instead of grind it out, and that's a problem. You got some big guys on that team. You got guys like Kevin Hayes, who's a big son of a gun. That other rookie that they said they want to move to center, his name escapes me right now.
Morgan Frost?
Not Frost, the other guy who's left-handed, the guy that's like 6'7".
Oh, you're talking about Stan Moran. They moved him to the wing. Yeah, from defense. Yep.
Yeah, him. I mean, you got these guys now that you're going to have playing forward. Vigneault's got to stop with constantly trying to headman the puck and start grinding it out. And he's got to start doing that during the season so that when they play in the playoffs, they're not going to necessarily play a team that likes to fly. Okay, I mean, if a team like the Penguins, they like to fly. Okay, so and the Flyers can fly with them because the Flyers can skate. But you got to be tough to play against, and I think that was part of the problem for the Flyers last year against the Islanders. They weren't tough to play against.
And get dirty in the dirty areas. Get strong on the forecheck. Now I don't know if Moran makes the club, but if he does. He definitely could help that movement, but you got to play big. You got to play big against teams like the Islanders, because for me, I think that's who the biggest challenge is in terms of the top spot in the East. Very high on the Islanders. They just re-signed Matthew Barzal, which was their only question mark heading into the season. I have a lot of respect for your Rangers club too, man. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people and make the playoffs this year.
I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think it's too much. It's too hard for them right now. I mean, they're still breaking in. They're still breaking in some young players. Okay, Lafreniere, I think he's going to be great, and I think he's going to have a pretty good season this year. But he's still going to be a rookie. You're going to have a rookie probably playing with Jacob Trouba on the first defensive pairing. Okay, and there's a possibility that you could have you could have two rookies playing playing defense this year. So I just don't know if they're ready to take that leap. Consider the fact that you have Philly, Boston, the Islanders, and Washington all in your division, and Pittsburgh. Okay, are they really better than any of those teams? I mean, I just don't know.
I'm with Pove, Brad. I think me and Pove are both higher on the Rangers than you are. Pove, do you agree?
It's not that I'm not high on the Rangers. I think the Rangers are going to be good this year. But the problem is they're in a very difficult division. I mean, I think they're better than Buffalo and the Devils. I think if they were in any other division, I think they would make the playoffs. But this is going to be a tough division. I mean, unless Pittsburgh or Washington get banged up, maybe they will because they are old. Okay, unless one of those teams gets a lot of injuries, I just don't know how the Rangers are going to sneak in.
Pope, do you agree?
Boston. I mean, they're I forgot about them. I mean, you got the Islanders, Boston, Washington, and Pittsburgh. Those are four very good teams.
Pope, do you agree that the Flyers are the favorites in the East here? Because if you win the East, that's a monster momentum booster. Right? It means you're battle tested going into the playoffs. It's a very hard division, as Brad just pointed out.
I do think they are, and this isn't the Homer hat talking, because you get back Oscar Lindblom, who's got a great nose for the net, a great shot. That's what the team was lacking, not getting enough shots on net, not getting enough pucks behind the goaltender. And Nolan Patrick, who, let's call it like it is. He didn't set the world on fire coming up as a rookie. He actually was almost getting labeled a bust before he went down with the migraines. But what he does do is he returns that strength up the middle that the Flyers had with him before he went out. You have three strong center icemen now. Four, matter of fact, with Scott Lawton being now moved down to the fourth line projected. Really strong up the middle. It'll help with that forechecking game that we spoke of before.
Yeah, the Flyers could really use the one thing they don't really have is a pure sniper. That's the one thing that they really could use, which brings me to Jean-Luc. What do you think about him? A lot of people are thinking that he might be going to maybe the Rangers. The Flyers are in the market for him. I mean, Dubois is one of the best centers in the league. Okay, he's made it quite clear to Columbus
I don't need a center. I don't need a center, though.
Oh, but he's a different story, though, Rob. You get him.
Where am I pointing? Yeah, but you guys could use Dubois. And look at that fit. He played with Panarin. I believe the president drafted him when he was president of Columbus.
John Davidson drafted him. Yes, he did.
Right. I think it's honestly it's a match I don't want to see, but it's a match made in heaven.
The problem is, what are they going to want? What are they going to want in return? When I heard that they wanted either Kakko or Lafreniere just to start, that's when I said he's not going to the Rangers because there's no way in God's name David's going to trade either one of those guys. Yeah, or Miller, and they're not going to trade Miller because they think Miller is going to be a first pair defenseman this year. It may start with the Rangers. It may start that you see Smith alongside of Trouba to begin the season, and Jack Johnson on the third line, on the third setting with Tony DeAngelo. You might see that to start, and then gradually see him breaking in the kids and bringing in Miller and bringing in Runanen and having those two guys take over for the older for Johnson and Smith. I mean, everybody hopes that that's what happens, but I don't see it because the Rangers, one thing they did not do well last year, they didn't kill penalties well. Okay, they lose Jesper Fast, who was their best defensive forward, and basically you lose Fast and you lose Fast, and now Lemieux is going to be one of the penalty killers instead of
Jimmy Vesey too. You guys lost Vesey. I mean, he's not.
Yeah, he stinks though.
Yeah, still a good depth guy for the penalty kill.
I mean, he had what, 5 goals last year
for a penalty kill though. Yeah, you're talking
penalty killer. Yeah. I mean, look, you can always find them, but the thing is, if you don't have any on your team, really, I mean, they're using offensive players to kill penalties.
Yeah.
You really don't want Mika Zibanejad killing penalties, do you?
You don't want him blocking shots, and plus, it adds to the ice time, so you're taking away from his offensive rushes.
You don't want Panarin killing penalties either. I mean, they're gonna have Ryan Strome, who's their second line defense center, probably killing penalties with Lemieux, and that's going to be your number one penalty kill. That's where I'd be really concerned with the Rangers. Their penalty kill is going to stink. Okay, and I don't see how it's going to get better when you really you put two young players on the team that are going to be out there killing penalties, no doubt. And I'm sure you're going to see Lafreniere and you might see Kakko trying to kill penalties too. I mean, these guys have never played Kakko's never killed penalties, and Lafreniere's never even played in the league. So I don't know how that's going to work. I just don't. I think the Rangers are going to show everybody how close they are. I don't think they're a Stanley Cup contender until 21-22, to be honest with you.
Now, getting back to the favorite in the East, which I do agree with both of you, I think it's the Flyers. The Flyers are so deep. They're so deep. We talk about all the time that you need four lines that can skate and score, and the Flyers are going to have that. You got a few duds in there that I'm sort of sick of looking at, and Voracek, even though Vignier, he's got the best out of him last year, and Van Riemsdyk, who's just been a total flop as a free agent. And what I would like to see the Flyers do is kind of some of this young depth. Like, obviously, it looks like you're going to keep Morgan Frost. It looked like Cam York is borderline untouchable. You have a lot of good farm system guys. I don't like what's his name, the center for Columbus. What's his name again?
Pierre-Luc Dubois.
I don't think I'm necessarily giving up a bunch of prospects for him because I think we're pretty good at center.
Big time.
But if I can consolidate some of these prospects into a sniper on the wing, I'm going to do that, because if you get a sniper, I think this team walks to the Stanley Cup Finals. Now it's a little different.
I don't think they're walking through anything. I think that they still need a sniper. I don't know that they're going to.
Brad, the one thing that we didn't mention with the Flyers being the favorites in the East is they have a goaltender who is absolutely ready for stardom. Carter Hart is the truth. Carter Hart is really good.
Vasilevsky is still better than he is right now.
I don't care about Vasilevsky. I'm talking about the Flyers right now. We're going to talk about Tampa Bay.
He's 7 years older, though.
What makes you think that they're going to beat Tampa Bay right now?
Because you talk about they have no Kucherov. Yeah, cool. They have Stamkos now. How long is that going to last? A week before he's hurt? I mean, the guy's made of glass.
Yeah, but Kucherov is going to be back in time.
And Brad, it's every year with the Lightning. Every year you pick them to win, and every year they don't do. They're like the Saints. They're like the Saints.
No, they're not like the Saints because they won last year.
Did they win last year?
Yes, they did.
All right, I take it back then. I forgot.
They won the cup last year, and they did not have it easy to get there either. They had to beat all the top.
It's not easy in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't care if you're playing the 8th seed. It doesn't matter.
I mean, they got stuck having to play the Columbus Blue Jackets in the first round again, a team that upset them the year before, and a team that was able to beat the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first round, who were really good, a real good offensive team, maybe not a good defensive team, but still that was and they had that game, that first game they lost, and then game 2, you're going into 5 overtimes before they finally beat Columbus. And after they did that game galvanized them, and then they were able to go on and win the cup. And they didn't have such an easy time. They had to beat the Islanders too, and the Islanders were tough as hell to beat last year, and they beat Boston.
So who joins the Flyers in the playoffs for the East? Now, this is very interesting because, you could have 2 Eastern Conference teams in the Stanley Cup this year, the way I understand it.
How to figure that? Are they going by –
because the East, the 4 teams in the East, the 4 teams in the East are going to be – and point out if I'm misinterpreting this, please. So the 4 teams from the East, they're going to have their bracket, their 14 bracket. The Central's going to have their 14 bracket. The West is going to have their 14 bracket. The North is going to have their 14 bracket. And then once winners, the champion of the Northwest, Central, and East are crowned, those teams are going to be seeded 1, 2 through 4 based on their regular season point totals.
True, that could happen.
You could have the Flyers against, say, the Panthers in the Stanley Cup, which is weird. Not saying that the Florida is going to be there. It's just an example because it's the team that's at the top of the list.
Florida is going to be a very good team, by the way, this year.
Which I do like them as well. So who are the 4?
Look out because they've made some nice additions as well. I would not count them out.
It's year 2 of Quinville. The only thing I don't like about I don't know what's going on with Bobrovsky down there. Paid a lot of money to Bobrovsky. I don't know what's going on with them.
I think they got another goalie. So I can't.
So who joins? Who are the 4 East? Because
didn't they, Rob? Didn't Florida get another goalie?
I don't think they did. All I remember is subtractions. They lost Dadenoff, I know.
Okay.
So who joins the Flyers? Who makes it? Who are the 4 teams in the East that make the playoffs? Start with you, Rob, because there's really no wrong answers here.
Yeah. For me, it's Islanders, the Flyers, it's Washington, and it's Pittsburgh. And I almost want to put your Rangers ahead of Pittsburgh too, because they're a team that they're getting old, long in the tooth. Malkin is not the Malkin that we knew from 5 years ago. Crosby's always going to be Crosby, but he's getting older there as well.
He's 37 now, though. Malcolm is old.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you still have Jake Gensel. I mean, so it's hard to go against them. Tristan Jarry's a fabulous goaltender. So
they also picked up that defenseman too.
Yeah, I was ready to come on the show and put the Rangers ahead of Pittsburgh, just to warm up to you, Brad. And you make a lot of good points about in terms of them not being, ready for prime players.
They might be too. Listen, now, the one thing that you're with the Rangers that I'm overlooking is the fact that Shesterkin now is going to play the whole year, and he was fabulous last year when he came up. So, and Lundqvist was not good last year. So that's a plus.
Right.
But
I have Adam Fox 1 more year older. You know what I mean? I'm very impressed in his game.
Here we go. Here we go in the comments. David Prism 280. Drew shows nothing in the playoffs. Again, he needs to go. She's not even started yet. We're already hating on Giroux. He's the captain of the team. He's one of the greatest players of all time. I don't understand Giroux hate. I don't get it.
Priz. I don't know if you caught that scrimmage on Sunday night, but that line, with Hayes, Giroux, and Farabee, that is going to revitalize Giroux. Mark my words.
And I think that in terms of the sniper thing with the Flyers, I think Konechny is really about to take a step forward. I'm not sure what happened to him in the playoffs because he didn't play like Travis Konechny that I saw in the regular season before the stoppage.
He was also hurt.
Sure. Maybe that has something to do with it.
I think it had a lot to do with it.
I don't know who they're going to – because I did not see that scrimmage. I didn't see any of the line pairings. I don't know who Konechny is going to be paired with, but I want him playing with Claude Giroux as much as possible.
Well, they actually had a better scenario for you, Rob. They had him with Coots and Lindblom. And they look pretty good as well.
Coots, Lindblom, and
Konechny. Yep.
I guess. I mean, the lines, it's all about who's
right. That's going to change. I mean, you could easily shift Giroux back up and have Giroux, Coots, and Konechny.
I'm Team Claude. It makes me mad when people say to get rid of him.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Yeah, I can't. The season hasn't even started yet. At least have him play a bad game first. All right, let's move on. Because I think, Brad, are you in agreement? I guess Washington has to make it, right?
I think so. They do have a rookie goalie though, Samsonov.
That's what makes me nervous. So I'm gonna put the Rangers in. I'm gonna agree with Rob, but I'm gonna put the Rangers in over Washington. I can't pick Pittsburgh to be dead until I actually see Pittsburgh dead.
Washington is getting old too. I mean, their key players are very old at this point.
And in terms of Eastern Conference prop bets, I have Carter Hart. I think he's going to win the, I believe it's called the Vezina Trophy for the best goalie. I got that at 10-1 odds. I think the Flyers have an excellent chance to win the Stanley Cup. That's 17-1 odds for you gambling folks out there. And I also took Ivan Provorov to win the Hart Trophy, right? For the best defenseman.
No,
the Norris Trophy, excuse me. So I think he's another guy who's about to step up and be an upper echelon player in this league. I think the Flyers are going to have a really good season. I think they're going to win the East. I think that the Islanders, we saw it in the playoffs last year, the Islanders, they're a pain in the ass. All their guys, whether it's Barzell.
They're very tough to play against. Remember when I said the Flyers got to be tougher to play against? That is exactly the definition of what I'm talking about being tough to play against. Okay?
And then they're well coached as well.
Yep. They're a scrappy bitch.
Let me get my divisions up here. But I mean, yeah, I'm very Flyer heavy. I'm very flyered up as we enter the season. They're going to play the Pittsburgh Penguins. Huge rivalry. Be a lot of rivalry because they're only playing the East. So
right.
That part of it.
They're playing each other. There's going to be a lot of
I wish that we had a few duds sprinkled in the East, a little more duds like we have in the Canadian division, which is all duds. And the West Division, which is the California teams, like you said, they blow. But we have what we have.
We got Arizona and Colorado, and Arizona, Colorado, and Dallas and St. Louis are just they're going to have a feast. Those four teams.
I want to talk about sleeper teams because Poves, a team I really like that I think is going to pile up a lot of points in that stinky North Division, which features all the Canadian teams, is the Vancouver Canucks. I love this team. I have a bet on them at 40-1 to win the Stanley Cup. You have Elias Peterson, who won Rookie of the Year last year. I think he steps up and does it again. They bring in Braden Holtby. I think this is like a sneaky under-the-radar sign. I also have him to win the Vezina Trophy a little bit at some pretty crazy odds. I think Holtby, with emergence of their young core, I think that's a good recipe for success in a stinky division. So I'm very high on Vancouver as a sleeper team. I was very surprised to see them at 40-1 to win the Stanley Cup.
In Canada, they're not considered a sleeper team in Canada. Canuck fans
what do you mean by that?
In other words, in our country, in the United States, we don't watch Vancouver play a lot. But in Canada, if you watch the NHL Network once in a while, they'll tell you. I mean, Brock Boeser has become formidable. What's his name? Hughes, the one Devils, the brother that plays for Vancouver. He's one of the best defensemen in the NHL. I mean, that team is good, and believe me when I tell you, Holtby was not an under the radar kind of signing. That guy was good.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying he's under the radar because I got him mad late in my fantasy draft last night. He doesn't have the ilk that he once had as being a premier goaltender, at least not based on his fantasy stock.
No, but listen, Holtby is a very solid goalie. The only thing is, I don't know that they're necessarily as strong between the pipes as they were last year. I mean, Rock, Markstrom was their goalie last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Now he's in Calgary. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is that necessarily an upgrade right now from Holtby?
Not the way he was playing. I mean, he's going to get a better defense in front of him, I think.
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah, Nate Schmidt to that recipe as well now this season.
Yeah, I mean, they're. I would agree though, Rob. That I think that team is probably going to win the division. To be honest with you, I think the soundest team defensively. I never like high-powered offensive teams that don't play defense and are fairly weak in goal. And to be honest with you, that's why I always bet against the Maple Leafs in the playoffs. That's why I picked Columbus last year to beat them in the first
Calgary
round.
Comes to mind.
Calgary just doesn't have enough.
Calgary fits the they fit the mold of scoring a lot and not being able to sustain post. I know they won a playoff. I think they won a playoff series last year, but
but Winnipeg's whole team was hurt, right? I mean,
they hurt them. They hurt them. So I mean,
good point. That's a good point. Yeah, they were the ones that did all the. They're a mean team. They really are. But I mean, you look at Edmonton. I mean, is Edmonton strong enough in goal? I don't think they are. I don't think they fixed that area of their game. They need a spectacular kind of goalie. Edmonton.
You have a sleeper team. Who's your sleeper team, Brad?
In Montreal.
Whatever.
Montreal. Yeah, nobody's giving them that much of a chance, and nobody's really talking too much about them. But Montreal was very impressive against the Flyers. So, that was something that could come back, and in that division, because don't forget you're looking at Ottawa, who's not going to make the playoffs. Okay, but they're not terrible like they've been in the past. But they're not going to make the playoffs. All these other teams, I don't know about Winnipeg. I don't know if the Stastny experiment's going to work. They seem to think if they put Stastny with Laine, that Laine is going to grow up and be a better all-around player and not just try to score all the time because he's such a defensive liability. I don't necessarily know that that's going to work. Hellebuck is great. I mean, he's a terrific goaltender. But I don't know that Winnipeg has enough firepower to match up. I don't think the Flames have enough firepower to match up. I think those are the teams that aren't going to be there. I think you're going to see Montreal steal the 4 spot, and then you're going to have Toronto as usual and Edmonton as usual and Vancouver as well. And those are going to be the 4 teams in the Canadian division. But I think Montreal is going to be the sleeper because they have the best goalie when he's playing well.
Pove, you got an NHL sleeper team for us?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple. Sticking in that division, I'm actually high on the Toronto Maple Leafs. I've talked about them a lot during the hockey happy hour here on Thursday nights. I think I like the additions that they made during this offseason. Not really blowing people away, but you bring in a strong vet like Joe Thornton to play in your bottom 6. That's going to help teach some of these younger pups for Toronto how to play that all-around game like Laine is trying to portray, particularly with Mitch Marner and William Nylander, getting them strong on that. And also, showing Matthews what it is indeed to be a leader of a team. I've been very critical on the Toronto Maple Leafs, much like you guys have been during the show, but I really think this is the time they put it together. They gave Freddie Anderson some money, solidified that there. He returns to that squad. So I think they're a team that's going to make some noise in the playoffs, not just make it, but make some noise. On the other side, I'm looking at the Carolina Hurricanes. They moved from a tough Metro to a cream puff Central, and they've gotten really strong and have just a great organization with former Flyer Rob Brendamore head coaching there. I'd expect a lot of things out of the Carolina Hurricanes this season. They're
good. They're really good. I think I had somebody corrected me about is Dallas. Which division is Dallas in?
So Dallas
Central.
In essence, they're in the Central.
Okay, so now I thought they were going to be
in Nashville. Them and Nashville essentially become Eastern Conference teams.
Okay, so it's them, Nashville, Detroit, Chicago. Oh brother, what a crappy division!
I guess Chicago too.
Oh my God,
it's really not very good, and that's a good one. That's a good run, Rob, because you got Aho, you have. Yeah, you just have a lot of good players. I want to get into some because Pove, I know you're a fantasy guy. Brad's a fantasy guy. I'm a fantasy guy. I had my first ever fantasy hockey draft last night. Had the 4th pick, and my first pick was Panarin. Now,
that's a good.
Obvious. Yeah, I thought you might like that one. Let me bring it up on my phone here. Rob, do you have any? Rob Pobes, do you have any advice for me when you come? When it comes to playing fantasy hockey and like what I should do?
Yeah, you want to keep lines together, man. Much like DFS where you're stacking, say in fantasy football, you want to have guys that play on the same lines and also maybe play with each other on the power play as well. So that way, as one player is building up assists, you're getting the goals and vice versa. That's a big thing that I generally don't like stacking in other fantasy sports, but it's a necessity of fantasy hockey.
Well, if you were able to get Zibanejad and Panarin,
too late to stack. Too late to stack for me. I don't have any stacks.
If you were somehow able to get Panarin and Zibanejad because they play on the power play together,
trades, baby. You can always refight. That's just a drafted team, man. You can pull off some trades. You never know how lines are going to shape up due to injury too. Especially,
that's true. Yeah. But if you were able to get both of them, okay, because
I don't have.
That's the one thing that Panarin, you don't get Strome in the power play. Okay, it's usually their first power play is Zibanejad, Panarin, and Buchnevich, and then you're going to see Fox probably and D'Angelo at the point. So if you could somehow get two of those guys together, especially D'Angelo as a defenseman.
I wanted to get D'Angelo. I don't have defense. I ignored defense. My defense was my last 4 picks in the draft were defensemen. I have Adam Fox on the Rangers. I have Colton Parayko on the Blues.
Parayko is good. Yeah. You did. I have those two guys.
I think I already dropped Colton Parayko because my 5th pick, I needed to shake things up. I have dominant forwards. My 2nd pick was Braden Point, Andrei Shevnikov from Carolina.
Oh yes, that's
player.
I was able to get Barkov and Gaudreau. I have Brendan Gallagher and Konechny. Holtby and Mrazek are my goalies, and I have Nylander and Jamie Benn, as well as Anders Lee on my bench. So what I did today, post-draft, was I traded Johnny Gaudreau because his plus-minus worries me, and that's detrimental to the scoring system that I'm in. Seems to be detrimental to the scoring system that I'm in. Never played fantasy hockey before. But I traded Johnny Gaudreau for Pietrangelo on the
Pietrangelo?
Yeah, he signed the big deal.
That's a good trade.
In Vegas.
Is that the one that everybody's pounding you about?
Yeah, I'm getting pounded.
Oh, that's a good trade. Now, Alex Pietrangelo for Gaudreau? Gaudreau is going to get there's 56 games this year.
Right.
Okay, Gaudreau is probably going to get like 40 points. So, and Pietrangelo as a defenseman will probably get close to 40 points too. Maybe 30. So let's say 30. But as a to get a defenseman who scores that many points there's not that many defensemen who can score like that. It's a lot harder to find.
Which is why I pulled this. Rob, did I make a stupid trade right off the bat?
You fleeced whoever you trade with.
Because you guys are saying you guys are pounding the other guy.
Yeah, I'm pounding the other guy because you could replicate the production that you'll get from Gaudreau and other players. And if you were weak in defense,
Anders Lee will score just as many points as Gaudreau.
So I dropped Parayko, and
he's going to play the point on St. Louis's power play. So I don't know.
Maybe I'll try and get him back. But I thought
isn't he the point? Isn't he going to be the point man now, Rob?
You talking about Pietrangelo?
No, Parayko.
Oh, Parayko. He's got to fit that role. I was going to say because he was in Vegas now. So
he'll be the point man on their power play now.
You would think so, yeah.
So how good St. Louis's power play going to be though? Well, they still got Jaden Schwartz and Tarasenko is going to come back. So their power play should be good.
Nate Schmidt. Well, I dropped Parayko. I wanted to keep Nate Schmidt because I'm high on the. High on Vancouver. I'm also high on Carolina. I'm glad you mentioned them as a sleeper team because I think they're going to run roughshod over that cream puff division, as you stated. Jacob Slavin's on my team. Not much of a goal scorer, but his plus minus last year was plus 30, which is just crazy silly. And then, I have to score goals. I have like Alexander Barkov on Carolina. Like that guy's a stud. Like basically, if I knew they were a stud going into the draft, because I get in. I'm not as big a hockey guy as I am a baseball, football, and basketball guy. So in the later rounds, I'm just like, okay, Brad's talked about that guy before. Like I can pick him. But Barkov, I had that all on my own. I've heard of him. But like a forward like Gaudreau as opposed to a defenseman like Pietrangelo. I mean,
you're not going to find
because like
defenseman like that.
What's the difference between Travis Konechny, Johnny Gaudreau, and William Nylander?
Well, talent-wise, Nylander is the best out of all of them.
Right. That's why I didn't want to trade.
I'm pure talent. I take Nylander out of all of them.
Because, 31 goals last year, it's only 56 games. So, if you get 20 goals, you're really cooking. No? What do you think the league leader in goals is going to have?
40.
Yeah, 40, 42. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Really? You think someone's going to score 40 goals in 56 games?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That seems like an astronomical scoring rate. No?
They do it all the time, though. Mika Zibanejad last year had 41 goals in 67 games. And he's not the biggest goal scorer in the league by any stretch of the imagination.
I guess you're right. I don't know. It's just hard for me to wrap my head around projections in what I'm not used to, which I'm not used to a 56.
Ovechkin could do it. Although I don't know, in our division, with all the good defensive teams, I don't know that he's going to score that many. Maybe not.
More prudent for fantasy. Don't look at the projections. Just like, fantasy football, you want to focus on the projections. Go to those websites that I told you about, Brinkman, right? And go and look past the past 2 to 3 seasons for the Corsi numbers, right? How they play 5-on-5, how they play on the power play. That's going to make, decision-making for your roster that much easier. It's sort of like, looking at the trends of hitting versus pitcher about BVP numbers in for baseball.
Well, power play is essential because you get 2 points for a power play point, and then you get either the 4 points for an assist or the 6 points for a goal on top of that. I don't know how regular fantasy traditional fan, but that's the way my league works. It's a point system, and that's the way it is. So power play is essential.
Yeah, you want the Toronto guys then, because Toronto has a terrific power play. You want Washington because although Washington's power play last year wasn't nearly as good as it's been in the past, I would definitely try to get guys from that team. Especially if you can get Carlson or a guy like Carlson or Ovechkin or the center. Now I can't think of his name. His center, who's been there a million years.
Well, I have who I have.
Right.
No,
I think you drafted. You did a good job with your draft.
I would like to.
Panarin scores a ton of power play goals.
So, you guys think I made the right choice trading Gaudreau instead of Nylander or Konechny?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Then I can't wait.
If Konechny stays healthy on that team, especially if he's not on the first line, if they put him on the third line, he's going to score. He'll score 35 goals on the third line if he plays on the third line. And I'll tell you why, because he's going to be playing against other teams' third lines, and nobody's going to be able to defend him. No third line players are going to defend him.
I hear you on that. Travis Konechny was a big-time draft target of mine.
Yeah,
I would imagine Travis Konechny is going to have a big-time role in the Flyers' power play as well.
And he's got that chip on his shoulder, too, from the playoffs. He's going to look to flip the script this season.
You would think so.
All right, so who's going to win this thing? Who's winning it all? Who's going to – I know it's tough to pick like an exact matchup. It's not a traditional East versus West type of season. But, I mean, who do we like to win the Stanley Cup? Who do we like as potential matchups in the Stanley Cup? I like the Flyers and the Canucks. I'll be a homer. I'll lead it off. I think the Flyers win it. I think a big trade is coming. With this stacked farm system, I think maybe if you see a great product, a hot start, the Flyers GM, who is named just went out of my Chuck Fletcher. I think he's a good GM. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders, and I think that he will. If there's a move to be made out there to put the Flyers over the top, I think he will pull the trigger. You have the goalie. You have a pretty good defense. You can skate and score. The Flyers have everything you need. I'm picking the Flyers over the Vancouver Canucks, who I absolutely love in that North Division.
I'll go next. I'm gonna go Colorado, and it's tough to like you said, you don't have the classic scenario East versus West, but I'm gonna go Colorado, and man, it's so tough in terms of the East, or what would be the East.
Just pick one of the other division winners, like your second favorite division winner. I guess that's the easiest way to predict it, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Colorado, and I'm gonna go because there's always that random team that you don't suspect that has that hot run. Colorado, Carolina. How about that?
That sounds.
I like the Carolina pick.
Carolina.
I'm just and then Colorado. Obviously, that's not a bad pick. They're the favorites, but
right.
I mean, it's like picking the number one seed in the NCAA tournament. I rarely ever do that.
But if they're going to win, if he thinks they're going to win, then why not?
Yeah, I hear you.
But
I love the Avalanche. I think they're a terrific team. They're so much fun to watch.
I do too.
Their power play is a work of art. It's just 3 passes, quality scoring chance.
Oh, and they have a terrific defense. I think their goaltending is underrated. I think it's a lot better than what people give them credit for. They're a great team. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, they're one of these years they're going to win. I mean, it's not a question of if, it's just a matter of when with them.
So, Brad, what say you? Who's the champion going to be? Who could they potentially play?
Okay, well, I'm gonna get a little different in the West. I'm gonna take the Vegas Golden Knights. Love the addition of Peter Angelo for their power play. That's a tough team. I mean, and when I say tough, I mean you can't go in there and start hitting their players, because if you start hitting their players, there's a guy over there who will beat the hell out of you, and you guys both know who I'm talking about. So you can't really go out there and hit him and beat him to death, because then you're going to have to fight Ryan Reeves, and nobody in their right mind wants to go near that guy, because he's insane and he'll butcher you. I mean, he's one of those guys. He's like Chara was in his prime. When he fights you, he doesn't want to just beat you up. He wants to hurt you. So, and believe me when I tell you, that gives these guys so much room to skate and so much room to play. That's what makes it so hard. And I know it's old time 70s and 60s and 80s hockey, but you know what? I don't care what anybody says about that stuff. You have a guy like that on your team who can actually play a little bit. And listen, Reeves is no, he's no Brett Hull out there. He's not that kind of a player, but he's an effective 4th line player. And boy, if you take a shot at one of their players, man, you got to deal with him. You expect to get beat up. I mean, that does mean something. And I think the Golden Knights have enough goaltending for sure, and they've got enough scoring, and they have a good defense, and that was huge to get Peter Angelo. Huge. I think they're the team to beat out there. I also like their experience as well. In the East, I'm going to have to go with Tampa Bay. I think that by the end of the season, they're going to have all their guys back. If they stay healthy, and they pick up another defenseman at the trade deadline, which I'm sure they will because they always find a way to do that, they're going to be in the finals. I think at this point, Tampa Bay's run is not over yet. I think they win one more.
I was trying to avoid just picking like the past champ, but I mean the high probability of them returning. That was actually my gut. What I was going to say. I was going to say Colorado, Tampa Bay, but I was like, let me go for a team that you wouldn't expect to go with.
Well, that's
Colorado.
why the hockey playoffs are the best.
I've been going with Tampa Bay for the last 5 years. So
why stop now, right?
Yeah. They finally won for me, so now I'm going to go with them again. But I again, in my heart of hearts, I do think I love the Avalanche, but you know what? I can't pick a favorite. I got to go with a different choice, just and who I think would give the Avalanche the toughest time, and I think the Golden Knights are still. I believe they beat them last year, didn't they? Were the Golden Knights the team that beat the Avalanche last year? Who beat? Oh, or was it Dallas? I can't remember.
Stars beat the Avalanche.
Dallas. Yeah, it was Dallas. Dallas didn't pick up another goal scorer though, so I'm not too keen on them right now.
What was it? It was Dallas, Tampa, and Tampa won, right?
Yeah, Tampa won.
That's what happened.
Yeah, Dallas. I mean, Dallas surprised me last year because I don't think they score enough. I didn't think they'd be able to score enough to get to the finals. I mean, yeah, they have been, and they still have enough. They still have what's the guy from Boston, which I can't remember his name because it's not the hockey season yet. You know who I'm talking about, though.
Who?
The guy on Dallas.
You talking about Miro?
The guy, not Ben, the other one that scores. The guy that used to play Sagan.
Tyler Sagan, yeah.
Yeah, he's out though until
he
at least
help.
first few weeks of the season, I think.
Yeah, but he'll be back. He's not out for the whole season.
I understand he'll be back.
And they'll be good, and Dallas will be good enough to make the playoffs with or without him, because they don't give up any goals. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league. But I just don't think they have enough firepower yet to win a Stanley Cup. I think that team overachieved.
And Don 19 chimes in. The Red Wings' worst nightmare is seeing Colorado lifting the Stanley Cup. That was a shame they made. That was a shame they made Detroit switch conferences like that. They had a lot of great rivalries from the mid and late 90s that got ruined by that. And they're not good enough anymore. They're not good enough anymore to cultivate new rivalries with the Eastern Conference people. Man, they are just not interested in playing defense in this national championship game. Is that just like the cool thing? Is that just like the cool thing to do? I'm under 75.5. I figured I would get you get a couple stops, maybe a slow quarter, and you win. But I mean, is it just not the cool thing to do in college football, big time college football, to play defense?
These are two outstanding quarterbacks, though. I will give you that.
I get that, but I'm looking at.
Oh, good.
But I mean, how many times is Ohio State going to let Devontae Smith release off the line free, with off-man coverage?
Right now, okay, and here's all you need to know about Ohio State, okay? Ohio State gave up 28 points to Rutgers. I repeat, they gave up 28. No, excuse me, they gave up 27 points because Rutgers, for some bizarre reason, went for two on one of their extra.
Doug, everyone wants to be Doug.
It's the world of analytics. How many teams, even in the pros, you see this year down 2 touchdowns, go for 2 on that first touchdown?
Yeah, you know what, Rob? It's nonsense.
For what? Yeah. For what reason? I mean, Frank Reich going for 2 when it's 24-16?
Yeah.
Is it me?
Where's the logic in that? Seriously, where?
I've been saying this for a long time, but these coaches, you don't go for 2 until the fourth quarter. That's a Brad rule. You don't go for 2 because if you don't make it, you're chasing that point the whole game.
Hey, real quick, guys, I wanted to address Bobby Stevens in your YouTube chat. I keep on trying to put the website that I spoke of about the Corsi numbers, and it keeps on deleted on me. It's naturalstattrick.com. So instead of hat trick, naturalstattrick.com. It's a great website for Corsi numbers or any sort of hockey research for DFS, for fantasy hockey, and so forth.
But yeah, it's not cool to play. It's not.
You're right about Corsi, though. You want a Corsi guy. You want a Corsi guy over 50, by the way, Rob. Just to let you know, if you're looking for high Corsi, it's got to be 50 or higher. If it's under 50, that's not. What
does that mean?
You're
What does
under
that
league
mean?
average. It's just like some baseball numbers where you're talking about like where you're what percentage of the league are you at average? How many numbers are you above 50 to where you're above the average player?
Right.
How many numbers are you below 50 to be
right?
So
Like
it's like QBR, but for every stat, sort of.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, Corsi's more about puck possession in the offensive zone as opposed to how often you're in the offensive zone, I believe, and how often you're in the defensive zone.
I have to check out those Corsi numbers as the season unfolds.
Corsi's huge because guys that have low Corsi, it means that when they're out there, the other team's dominating the game on them. And when they're out there, if they have a high Corsi, your guys that are great players that score and have huge plus minuses are going to have big Corsis because they're always dominating the game. The puck is always in the other team's end, and that's Corsi. I think it goes by puck possession, doesn't it?
Yep, yeah, tremendously. 5-on-5 power play,
especially defensemen. Defenseman is probably the most important statistic for a defenseman is Corsi, because if they can't get the puck out of the zone, then they're going to have bad Corsi.
Tremendously.
Corsi is a measure of shot attempts, which is proxy for possession. If you're shooting, you have the puck.
Thank you. Puck. Well, it's as I said, it's puck.
That's from Brian Attard in the chat.
Yeah, it's basically it's basically puck possession.
Now,
kind of just what I said and repeated in a different way. Good job, Brian.
Now we got a couple minutes left. I can't have a show without talking the NFL playoffs. It was a crazy weekend in the NFL. It started with Frank Reich being kind of dopey. All this guy that everyone in Philadelphia wants to, myself included at times, want to anoint as this great coach because he was the offensive coordinator for the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of puzzling moves from the Colts on Saturday afternoon.
Going for it on 4th and goal.
I didn't get it. It totally changed the momentum of the game.
Always, when you're on the road in the playoffs, always grab the points. Especially
and you lose by 3.
Yep.
So,
and then the doink, of course.
The
later doink by the field goal kicker on the Colts.
Yeah, but Blankenship, I mean, he's good when he's right there and it's a chip shot field goal, but you're getting those high 40s, and then especially anything in the 50s.
Wasn't that like a 35-yarder or something, though?
He's not that great of a kicker.
No, he's not good. No, he's not. Maybe that's why Reich went for it on 4th and goal. I mean, I don't know. That's hard to say. It's hard to say.
You able to chip it in, and then you had the Rams. The Rams take out Seattle.
We both called that, by the way.
I don't understand Seattle. Because it's getting to be a theme. It's getting to be a theme with this Seahawk, where in October and November, Russell Wilson's the MVP of the league, and it looks like Seattle is destined for the Super Bowl. Then you get in December and January, and they can't seem to do anything right. Russell Wilson included. Now, Pete Carroll's been a lame duck. I think they're destined for a coaching change there in Seattle. I don't know how that's going to happen, but they have this stigma right now as peaking entirely too early in the season, and watching the latter part of January on the TV. And I can't really explain it. They had a great defense. They trade for Jamal Adams. They pick up Dunlop at the trade deadline, and they're playing great defense. And now Russell Wilson can't seem to put up points. I don't understand Seattle. I think it'll be a very interesting offseason for Seattle.
I think their offensive line was the culprit this past week.
And, they're going to have to do it, which it's not impossible to add key players outside of the first round, but they're not going to have a first-round pick the next couple of years because of the Jamal Adams trade.
Well, they can always move up, though. They can always move up, too. I mean, they'll find a way.
Then you get the Saturday night. I mean, I'm not really surprised that Washington is out. Tom Brady's playing terrific football. I'm very disappointed that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did not cover the 8.5-point spread that I had bet them at, but from a real football perspective, Tom Brady's going to be very tough to beat. He's going to be very tough to beat, and I know that the Saints have crushed.
We'll see what happens when he has to play against the defense that actually has a real good secondary.
Yeah, we'll see, but I mean, I think Tampa's taken out New Orleans someday.
Disagree with you there.
I do. Look, I didn't see much that I liked from the Saints at all yesterday against the Bears. At all.
Well, the Bears went 3-and-out on every series in that game except the last one. So I don't know how much more the Bears they could do. I mean,
I'm more talking about the Saints' offense.
Yeah, but the Bears have a really good defense.
They're okay.
Not as good as Tampa Bay.
Very good. I think
not as good as Tampa. Thank you. Rob points out that it's not as good as Tampa Bay's. Tampa Bay's playing really good football right now.
Tampa Bay's secondary stinks. They were lit up by a quarterback who was making his first appearance.
Yeah, but I saw that as soon as I saw that Alex Smith was inactive, I knew that the Redskins were going to come to fight. It's a backup quarterback theory. Alex Smith couldn't move. He couldn't move against the Eagles, and if they put Alex Smith out there, they would have gotten steamrolled. So I knew my bet was toast the second they didn't start Alex Smith. Because at least that guy, Heineke, at least he can move. Like, he's fully healthy.
I agree, but, I mean, he's not very good. And they still scored. I mean, Washington, who doesn't really score that many points, put up 23 against them. I think New Orleans is going to put up a lot more points than that.
And then the last thing about Wild Card Weekend is how about the Browns? I mean, I didn't see – we talked about that.
I did
pick that, and I kind of looked at you like you had four heads. But I mean, boy, oh boy, the Steelers in the postseason. That's like Seattle.
They've been horrible the last 6 weeks.
What about their last two playoff games? Is a loss to Blake Bortles and a loss to the Cleveland Browns, a division rival. Not a good look for Mike Tomlin. And I don't know how Mike Tomlin doesn't go for it on that 4th and 1.
Well,
I don't get it.
At that point, you know what?
But we talk about like with Doug how he can't critically think. He doesn't have situational awareness. But I mean that like situational awareness, you have the game by the balls, Mike. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're making a comeback. You go down 28-0 in the football game. You have a chance to rally and really, really make the Browns sweat. Which they made the Browns sweat last night. I guarantee the Browns would have. It's Cleveland. They fold every time that the Heat's turned up. And then he punts the ball back to an offense that's just really quick clicking. I didn't get that at all. And I think it's going to be a very interesting offseason for the Steelers as well, because the Baltimore Ravens, who are playing with a immense amount of confidence and swagger after beating the Titans. And the Browns, if Baker continues to progress like he's progressing, Steelers are going to be third in that division if Ben Roethlisberger inevitably, whether it's this year or they squeeze one more out of him, they can't run the ball.
I think they squeeze one more year out of him because I don't think he wants to go down, take his last game and throw.
They can't run the ball. They can't block up front. They have a good defense, but they got banged up.
Yeah, exactly. Seriously missing Devin Bush. You saw him on the field.
And then as far as the division round goes, I'm very confident in the slate from a prognostication standpoint, straight up, and also against the spread. So, I mean, I think the Packers, I think they're going to take out the Rams. I'll lay whatever. I saw 7 this morning. I'll gladly lay that. Does anyone think the Rams are going to put up a fight in that game? Aaron Rodgers is not losing his first playoff game.
Not especially not if Aaron Donald. If Donald is not going to be effective right now,
it sounds like he's going to play. Messed up his ribs, but I mean, Rob, how do you see that?
What I'll see is that I think the Rams will hang with them. The Packers win this game because they're just too strong, but you got Jalen Ramsey on Devontae Adams. He's not going to take him out of the game like he takes other receivers, but he's going to limit his production. And the secondary receivers on this Packers squad, as talented as they are, don't blow me away. MBS drops everything. Alan Lazard hasn't looked quite right coming back from that core muscle surgery that he had. I think that defense, you guys said it right. Aaron Donald, if he's playing at 80 to 90%, then they'll hang with him. If he's playing severely limited, then you could see Aaron Jones taking advantage of that situation on top of A-Rod himself.
I can't get past the fact that Jared Goff has been forced into action due to the misfortunes of Wofford on Saturday, and he should not be out there. He's down a thumb. I don't think he can throw the ball correctly. I think that's a bad mix when you have to get touchdowns, not field goals. Plus, it's probably going to be freezing cold in Lambeau. I don't like that mix at all, unless there's some.
You got to give.
They've been a run-heavy team this year, man. If they want to go like 60 to 70% of the formations to running, I could see that between Akers, Darrell Henderson, if he's healthy enough, Malcolm Brown, they could play that ball control game.
And I hear that, and that's their formula to success. But I mean, if I'm the Packers, I'm making Goff throw the football.
Yes, tremendously, because that's throwing into their strength. The Packers' strength is in their secondary. They want you to throw the ball so that way they can return it for 6.
Yes, and they also have a pretty darn good pass rush too.
Yeah, truth be told.
One thing I will say though about Goff, he's taken a lot of criticism over the years. But you know what? To come out against a team like Seattle, okay, and play the way he did, I thought it was courageous, and he played a pretty good game.
He's a good quarterback.
I mean, he showed me something because I always was kind of questioning his guts and his toughness and everything else about him. But you know what? He went out there with a broken thumb 2 weeks later, okay, and he played a reasonably good game.
And I agree with that. I don't hate Jared Goff. I think he had an off season. I'm hoping like Jared Goff had a bad year last year. I'm hoping like Carson Wentz, like this is his bad year, and then Carson Wentz rebounds like Goff rebounded this year. But I'm not saying that the Rams are going to lose because I think Jared Goff is bad because he's a good player. But
but Aaron Rodgers is just playing.
I'm concerned that his thumb is going to prevent the Rams from having a complete offense, and I think you're going to have a complete offense against Aaron Rodgers.
He looked good on that touchdown throw, but there wasn't much zip on it, and I think that's what it is. The pace is – he could be accurate, but is the pace going to be there, guys?
And, I don't really put much stock. I don't really put much stock in that Seattle defense. I mean, I don't know. Seattle confused me all year. I just didn't – I didn't get it. I couldn't figure them out. They can run the ball with Chris Carson, then they can't run the ball with Chris Carson. Russell Wilson's the MVP. Now the offense can't even make a first down. The defense sucks. Then the defense is better. I don't know. I mean, I think I know what I know that the Rams are probably going to have to score 21 to 27 points to win that game.
I don't know if they can do that.
I don't think they can do that. Most confident.
The other problem is if Green Bay gets ahead of them and they make it a passing, they make the Rams have to throw. That is also going to be a problem. And if I'm Green Bay in this game, I'm taking the ball first. I want to get the ball. All these teams that defer, they all we'll get the ball twice in a row. How many times do you see these teams scoring 2 touchdowns in a row in the last?
Stupid. It's stupid.
Ridiculous. You let the other team get the ball and they dictate turns. I mean, Buffalo deferred against the Colts, okay, and the Colts basically had Buffalo hemmed in inside the 10-yard line every starting series. I don't get it. I don't get that.
Analytics should have nothing to do with whether you defer. If you have Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes and you're an offensive football team,
you
want the ball.
I want to get that first. You get the opening drive and you get a touchdown. You are setting the pace for the game.
But if I'm a team like the Rams and I have a defense that's just killing it and on fire right now, you can have the ball first. I want to set the tone with my defense. If I'm the Rams, I want the ball too because you know what? I want
get the ball, and I want to keep Aaron Rodgers off the field, and I want to try to control the ball as much as I can, and set the pace and start and be the example. I just don't get this deferring all the time. It never works out the way it's supposed to. It just seems to me like most of these teams don't end up getting the ball in the last 2 minutes of the first half.
Yeah, but if you do it successfully, you increase your win chances by like 1.3%, which is, I guess, is a big deal.
Yeah, right.
If everything falls right and this, that, and the other happens.
If you're able to manage to not waste any of your timeouts because you're going to take a delayed game penalty or any of this other crap, I'd rather, the coaches used to always take the ball. Okay, I don't know when this deferring stuff started, but I think it's ridiculous.
When computers became a part of sports, that's
next gen stats. Next
gen. Guys, my most confident prediction of the weekend is I no doubt about it. The Ravens go into Buffalo and win. No doubt about it. They get that Tennessee monkey off their back. Yeah, they run off the field. They don't shake their hands. They stomp all over their logo. They're all jacked up. They're playing with swag. I think that this Zach Moss ACL knee injury that's keeping him out, I think that's a big deal because all due respect to Devin Singletary, he doesn't bring the toughness you need to run against a defense like the Ravens, like a team like the Ravens. So I'm riding that Baltimore wave all day long on Saturday night. I know, Brad, you're going to disagree because you're Mr. Buffalo.
I do disagree because Allen will run all over them too. So that's not going to matter. The Ravens have way more talent than the Tennessee Titans. They should beat Tennessee. Okay, I realize that they got the monkey off their back sort of thing. But one thing Buffalo's defense is they're fast. They're not necessarily a very physical group, but they're very fast. And you know what? The quarterback, Jackson, is not going to be running through them like a knife through butter. Okay, he's going to act. I think they're going to make him throw, and then we'll see what happens. I mean, that's what I think is going to end up happening. I think Buffalo is going to have no problem scoring on them. The Ravens defense is good against the run, but you're talking about the difference between Ryan Tannehill and Josh Allen. I mean, that's like comparing an ant to a water buffalo. I mean, come on now.
But Tennessee has better receivers than Buffalo.
Yeah.
Excuse
I'm a
me?
bigger fan.
You don't like Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley?
I mean, I don't like Cole Beasley. I hate Cole Beasley.
Career year for Cole.
Cole Beasley's a dork. He will forever be a cowboy dork in my eyes.
What about Smokey?
Yeah, their tight end is pretty good too.
Knox? I mean, okay. I mean, he's an okay player. I mean, come on, give me a break with Dawson Knox.
No, I'm talking Johnny Brown. Smokey.
Oh, Johnny Brown. I thought we were talking tight ends. Brad said, yeah, I mean, he's okay.
Good one, yeah,
he's what the Eagles want Quez Watkins and John Hightower to be.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs was basically.
I understand he's a first-team All-Pro guy.
So I don't know.
First-team All-Pro guy, but I got guys in the Baltimore secondary like Jimmy Smith and Marlon Humphrey,
and none of them are going to be able to guard him. They weren't able to guard the guy on Tennessee until
AJ Brown's a stud.
Huh?
AJ Brown's a stud.
They weren't able to guard him either.
These guys like Jalen Ramsey I watched the game. I watched the Seattle Rams game, and Jalen Ramsey shut down DK Metcalf. And DK Metcalf still had 5 catches for 96 yards and a touchdown. So there's not a damn thing anybody can do about these premier receivers getting their stats. You see the way they officiate the football games now? The defensive back breathes on the guy. It's a pass interference, defensive holding, nonsense penalty. So, yeah, Stephon Diggs
that I agree with.
Stephon Diggs can get 85, 100 yards and still be contained and shut down.
He's going to end up getting 150, 160 yards against that team. I mean, the Cleveland Browns offense put 40 up on the Ravens last time they played them. They beat them 42-40, okay? There's no way There's no way that the Ravens are going to put 42 up on the Bills. I could see the Bills scoring 30, 40 points against that team. I mean, you don't compare Ryan Tannehill to Josh Allen, please. Okay, Josh Allen is a beast. Josh Allen can run the ball. Okay, he's just as dangerous running the ball as he is passing the ball.
Poe, if you want to break the tie on this game, I'm big on the Ravens. Brad's big on the Bills.
Well, it's funny because I disagree with him so vehemently on Ryan Tannehill. I'm still saying Josh Allen is going to be a better quarterback, but I wouldn't put it at this juncture. But I will side with Brad. I got Buffalo winning this game, and it's because that they've shored up their run defense. About mid-season and previous, you could run all over the Buffalo Bills, and they shored that up. You got to like their secondary with Tre'Davious White. And as you know, I think Tennessee gave a nice blueprint on how you could, do as much as you can to curtail Lamar Jackson. He's still going to break that one like he did for his touchdown run, but you keep him from getting to that outside, and his arm isn't impressing me. I'm not as high on Lamar Jackson as other people are, but I mean, I know how much of a talent he is.
He's not a great
No, he's not. His accuracy sucks.
He only has to make a couple of throws a game to loosen up the defense.
And I understand their game. I'm just saying, in lieu of that, the way the teams match up, I could see the Bills actually winning this game.
And I think that Lamar, he's taken that everyone criticizing him for not being the traditional pocket passer, for being 0-1 in the playoffs, for losing last year to Tennessee. He's taken that criticism to heart. You saw his post-game press conference on CBS. You saw how he ran off the field and didn't shake anyone's hand. Like
Well, that's because the Titans disrespected them in Baltimore earlier in the season.
Right, I get it.
Yeah, they went and they were stamping.
I'm just saying Lamar Jackson is an incredible talent playing with swagger and a huge chip on his shoulder, and so are the Ravens.
Yeah.
I think that was a big psychological win for the Ravens on Sunday. I really do. I really like the Ravens.
God bless the fact that they stopped Derrick Henry as well. That was
right.
That was a great spot.
Which nobody.
I would like to see them, because who doesn't want to see Chiefs Ravens in the AFC Championship? That's the marquee matchup.
Brad doesn't.
He wants Buffalo Chiefs.
I think Buffalo Chiefs is the marquee matchup. I just think Allen is a great quarterback now. I mean, if you guys haven't seen Allen enough to really appreciate just how good he is now, he's sensational now.
My point before was I owned him in fantasy. I love Josh Allen. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that I wouldn't put him leaps and bounds ahead of, say, a Ryan Tannehill, who's had a phenomenal season himself at this point in his career. Long term, though, Josh Allen, he's developing that. He's always a big arm, but he's developing that accuracy on his throws.
This was his first big year. This was his first big year.
Right, correct. Yeah.
And, he's at a point now where he can run for 50, 60 yards, and he can pass for 300 almost every game.
I hear you.
And that's something that Lamar is not going to do. Right. He's not going to throw for 300. He may run for 50, he may run for 100. Okay, but he's not going to throw for 300. And if he's behind, you can stop him if you're just waiting for him all the time. That's something that can eventually be stopped. And in a big spot, he's been stopped a couple of times now.
True.
Against mediocre defenses, he's going to murder a bad defense or a mediocre defense. But against the top teams, especially if he's going to have to throw, because he's going to have to throw against Buffalo. Don't kid yourself. They're going to have to throw the ball. They're not going to be able to just sit there and run. That's not going to work against Buffalo, because Buffalo will score points against the Ravens. The Ravens are not going to hold them to 13 points the way they held Tennessee.
It should be a great game. I'm very confident. I'm very confident in my Ravens selection. You move on to Sunday. 3:05 and 6:40 are the games, getting on that championship Sunday schedule. I think the Chiefs narrowly escape on Sunday. I think the Chiefs, I'm looking at the line right now. It's the Browns +10 all day long. I'm pounding the Browns +10, but the Chiefs are going to win. They're going to find Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid off the bye. I see it being like a 27-24 game, a 30-27 game. The Chiefs' record against the spread this year is awful. They haven't blown many teams out, which you'd think it would be the opposite with Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, Mahomes, and the plethora of offensive weapons you have, but they've struggled to blow teams out. They've struggled to pull away. They've struggled to cover point spreads.
If the Browns can run the ball, okay, and they probably will be. If they're able to run the ball and control the ball and limit the possessions in this game to, say, 8 or 9 possessions instead of like 12, 13 possessions, I think that's how the Browns win the game.
I'm taking look at the over. It's 55, 56 in that range. It's a high total. I like dogs with high totals. But from an entertainment fandom perspective, I don't want to see them. I'll cash my betting ticket with the Browns +10, but I don't want to see the Browns and the Bills in the AFC Championship game. I don't want to see the Browns and the Ravens in the AFC Championship game. I want to see the Ravens or the Bills against the Chiefs. The Chiefs is the marquee name. Chiefs are the heavyweight champs until proven otherwise. If the Chiefs are going to get dethroned, I would rather it be to the Bills or the Ravens in a much more entertaining game than that the Browns would bring to the table in an AFC Championship game. But you talk about, you jump out 28-0. On a division rival like that. You basically end the game in the second quarter. It got kind of interesting, but not really. Did anyone think
they did the same thing to Tennessee? They had 38-7 at halftime in that game.
Yeah, but I never, even though the score got a little bit close, I never thought that the Browns were going to lose that game.
They were never in real danger. They were just it was getting embarrassingly close, but they were never in really danger to lose that game.
And then the last game of the weekend, part 3, Saints and Bucks. This is my least confident of all my prognostications, but I think the Bucks get it done. I think Brady's playing well. I think that Tom Brady, he's going to be ready to go. Tom Brady doesn't like losing to a team once in a season, as proved to he won't even shake Nick Foles' hand because he beat him in the championship game. He's lost to the Saints. Lost to the Saints twice this season. Is that Devonta Smith again? You got to be kidding me. That's 13 catches, 200 yards, and his 4th touchdown, I think.
35. They're going to have 35 points in the first half.
Wow.
Doesn't do anything for my under 75.5. It's his 3rd touchdown, not his 4th touchdown. It's his 13th catch, though. And I believe that puts him over 200 receiving yards in the first half. Nobody has an answer for this guy. That's who the Jets are going to take it to, Devontae Smith.
Yeah, that's a very good possibility.
But anyway, I don't see.
They're not taking a quarterback. I can tell you that right now. They've already so much as said so that they're not going to take a quarterback.
I think when they beat the Rams is when they said they're not. You know what I mean? That Trevor Lawrence didn't want to come to New York, and if you're not getting Trevor, the best thing you could do is further support Sam by giving him more weapons. I agree with you 1,000%.
Yeah, Devontae Smith would look good in green and white.
Yeah, with Denzel Mims. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Jets still need to work on their offensive line, but you know what? If they have 2 first-round picks.
You can do that. You can do that later. You can fortify your offensive line in later rounds. The Eagles have been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah, well, you can get a good offensive lineman at 25. At 24? Is that where Seattle's drafting, or would be drafting at 24?
Yeah, it would be between 17 and 23, I think.
Okay, so if it's 23 or 22 or something, at that spot,
I guess it's late. I guess it's pushed back this year because there were 7 playoff teams.
Right. It could be as high as 19. The 18 picks have been solidified, and it would be either 19 to
You got to think Washington. You got to think Washington is
Right.
Between 19 and
Because
22.
of the record, yeah.
Between 19 and 22, right? Or,
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
Anyway, to put a bow, I mean, what do you guys think about the Saints and the Bucks game? I don't see Tom Brady losing 3 times with the same team. I'm already shocked that he's lost twice with the same team.
I don't like New Orleans offense since Breeze has come back, especially Michael Thomas. There's zero chemistry there because the two of them don't even talk.
Yes, I was going to say something's off there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Michael Thomas thinks Drew Brees is a bigot, and that's plain and simple.
Well, it's the natural thing to think about anyone who supports Donald Trump, that they're just a racist idiot.
Right. So there's a fracture in that locker room to the point, and then you just talk about him coming back from basically his body getting broken. He hasn't looked the same since. Now you still have Alvin Kamara, who you could dink and dunk off the ball with. They're going to be competitive, but what they're doing to be successful right now, eliminating the deep pass and keeping it 20 yards and under, is going to feed right into Tampa Bay's strength. Brad, you said their secondary is their weak point. I agree with that. They have had some good play there, but that's definitely where you attack Tampa Bay. Their front seven are strong. I love their linebacking core, and I think they hold Kamara in check. And I think Tampa Bay wins more because of their defense and less because of Tom Brady.
Devin White playing would help.
Yes.
What's his name? The kid the one kid that's very fast that destroyed the Bears yesterday.
Harris, Dante Harris, I think his name is.
Yeah. You're not really taking him into account. I thought Thomas.
Not really, because I've watched a handful of Saints games this year, and I haven't really seen anything of substance coming from that guy. Now all of a sudden,
pretty damn good against the Bears
all the time now.
They were double teaming Thomas. I think Thomas played pretty darn well for a guy who hasn't played in a long time. He caught that bomb. He got the touchdown pass. They were double teaming him. So Breeze just went to Harris, and Harris was extremely effective. And
he was effective because he went against Buster Screen, who you or I over at our plus weight could be.
Is he the guy from the Jets? Is that the same Buster Screen that played for the Jets?
Correct.
Yes.
What is he, 100 years old now?
About, yeah.
Yeah, and he wasn't very good in his prime either.
I target him in DFS like every week.
Yeah. He's
Whoever's Buster Screen's going to be covering.
Yeah, Buster Screen he's a Jet reject. I remember him when he was with the Jets. I watch a lot of Jet games. I'm not gonna lie. I do watch a lot of Jet games, but being a Giant fan, Giants first. So
respect.
And I watch them, the Jets, and Buffalo. Those are the 3 teams I usually watch.
And just really quickly too about the Chiefs-Browns. The Browns do match up well to make this a competitive game, to your point, Rob, because I think the Chiefs were about 20th or 21st run DVOA. You can run on that Chiefs defense, and I mean that's the power of the Browns. Their offensive line and running it with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, so they'll keep it competitive.
I love Kareem Hunt this week. Kareem Hunt this week.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think if they can if they can control the ball and run the ball, which Cleveland is very capable of doing because they got 2 of the best running backs in the NFL.
And a great line.
Yeah, and Baker Mayfield is very good throwing the ball short. He's very, very good at that. That would be his strength, keeping the short passing game and just keeping Kansas City's offense off the field, limiting the possessions, as I said, maybe 8 or 9 possessions for the game for the Chiefs. Okay, if the Chiefs score on half their possessions, that's only 28 points. That definitely gives the Browns a chance to win the game.
I'm just looking at Cleveland right now. Look, first off, you look at the left side of their offensive line with Conklin and the Rook guard. I guess it's their right side of their line. It's just they maul people. They run block. They maul people. They create holes. You have 2 great running backs in Nick Chubb. Jarvis Landry is playing like a man possessed. He's playing excellent football. And Baker has confidence now. Baker, you saw him last night in his press conference. He turns his hat from the forward position to the backward position to kind of spit in the face of those haters. Like that's another team like the Ravens, I think, is playing with a lot of momentum and swagger right now. I just don't want to see them win. I want to see the Chiefs play either the Bills or the Ravens. I don't want to see the AFC Championship game feature the Cleveland Browns, with all due respect.
Chiefs have been doing it all year, doing just enough to win because of the experience that they got from their Super Bowl run last year. I think that's how it'll play out. But this is, I think, the game that's going to be the most exciting of the weekend. You were talking right guard, Rob?
Yeah, because they have Conklin and they have Conklin.
Wyatt Teller.
Good pull.
I look it up. I know it all.
I can see like a 27-24 Chief win in that game. I think that's what you're looking at. Very close.
Surprised me at all if Cleveland won. I don't know what the money line is in that, but I might sprinkle a little on the Browns. I think they have an excellent chance to win.
Probably like 3-1.
That's good odds. All right. Anyway, that'll do it. That'll do it for this edition of the Sports Hounds. Thank you to Rob Povia for joining us, talking some hockey.
Thank you. Good job.
Catch him Thursday on the Hockey Happy Hour. What time you guys going?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock Thursday, Hockey Happy Hour. It's a flagship show. There'll be live hockey action to talk about. Season starts Wednesday. Flyers open up with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Thank you to everyone who commented, liked, shared our program. Thank you to Frank Vesby for producing the program. Until next Monday, he's Brad. I'm Rob. Peace out, everybody.